Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever it is, wherever you are. Apologies, a few minutes late. We were actually having a debate back screen. So I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later. I am joined this evening by Lubo for 2 nights in a row. He must really love me. How you doing, Lubo? You good?
All good tonight, yeah. Looking forward to Sunday.
Mate, we've got debates tonight on Friday before we worry about Sunday. Don't worry about that. Big up to you. We've got Maz. Maz is here. Look at him. There he is with his cheeky little smile. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Thank you. Thanks for having me on again.
Always. And we've got James, who always looks like that TV's inches away from falling on his head. How are you, James? You good?
I'm well, mate. How are you? My Albanian brother.
I messaged James earlier and I said the other day when James was on a panel and I was in the comments and I messaged, James Flower, you're Albanian. And someone in the chat got really annoyed with me. Well, don't be racist and you can't say that to him. And I was like, oh, shut up. Blah, blah, blah. Big up to everybody in the chat. If anyone cares, I know people like to know about Akawatch. Akawatch is 5 teams tonight. 4 are winning. Sorry, 2 have won. 2 are winning. And Emil Højbjerg's Marseille are letting me down by losing 3-0 at home to Auxerre. So thank you, Pierre. Thank you very much for that. I blame Ellie. Tonight, we are going to talk about many things, guys. We're going to talk about this guy. We're going to talk about this guy. We're going to talk about this guy. And we're going to talk about a lot of quotes that Ange Postecoglou has said again, which I think are absolutely delusional. Guys, any one of those particular subjects you would like to start with? I'll go to James. What would you like to start with tonight?
Hugo.
Okay. So, guys, guys, it shouldn't be a shock. Yet another ex-player, manager, director of football, whatever you want to call it, an ex-employee of Tottenham has come out, and again, the remarks are, they're not scathing, but again, it paints the club in the light that we all think we are, that we're not really in it to win it, that it's all a bit nice. If we lose finals, no one's really bothered. Who would like to, James, start? You wanted to start with Hugo Lloris, and we'll bring up some of his comments in a minute, but why did you want to start with Hugo? What's going on?
I just think, again, it's another... For me, he was a legend. I know he left on bad terms, but I don't actually think that was his fault. I think that was the club's fault for not selling him 3 years before. I think if you was a big club, you let him go and then you replace. But I just think we keep hearing the same things over and over again. No matter what we do, who we have in, we'll see it the same thing when... Surprised Lo Celso hasn't come out and said something, or Højbjerg come out and said something. But I mean, that whole watch situation, that's just a joke, isn't it? That's just a loser's mentality.
Well, look, funnily enough, you should mention that. It's almost like I prompted you to. So here is what Hugo Lloris said. No, not that one. He said, we do all have one engraved memory. 4 days before the final, talking about the Champions League, Daniel Levy called us all together to announce that with the support of a sponsor, so again, probably Levy not spending any money, we would each receive a luxury aviator watch from the club. At first, we were excited to see the elegant boxes. I love this. It sounds like a novel, doesn't it? Then we opened them and discovered that he'd had the back of each timepiece engraved with the player's name and Champions League finalist 2019. Finalist. Why does such a thing at a moment like this? Sorry, who does such a thing at a moment like this? I still haven't got over it, and I'm not alone. If we'd won, he wouldn't have asked for the watches back to have winner engraved. I like the I'm not alone. So, I mean, guys, it's a little thing, but it all adds up, doesn't it?
Just a loser mentality, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's just literally just... It's either a loser mentality or a way to claim some tax backs. One of the two.
Go on, Levy.
It was sponsors, wasn't it? So it's
I think the volume of information given from those quotes from Lloris is really telling. I mean, you could tell that he really thought about what he was going to say in those quotes. And you're absolutely right, Savva. It just confirms everything we've said about Daniel Levy, about his mentality, about how it's a poor mentality from the top that trickles its way down and permeates through the walls of the club and the players and the management staff. And when you see legends, and look, Lloris is a legend because he gave us, a decade of his service, and he's a World Cup winner, so you can't take that away from him.
Yeah.
And he was a part of some great Tottenham teams, even though we didn't win anything. One thing I will say is what I found really shocking was when he identified things like we played 3 cup finals and we didn't score 1 goal, and how bad everyone felt about that, and he always referred everything back to Daniel Levy and his behaviour about how they behaved as a club when they lost. And that makes me angry. And in a way, that makes me angry at Lloris, because he should be banging Levy's door down with Kane and whoever was there, saying, Daniel, if either you win or we go. But they didn't. They all stayed there. So pot kettle black and all of that, yeah.
In fairness to him, he was and Harry Kane, they both wanted out a long time before that. When City come knocking on the door, Harry Kane was twerking like no tomorrow. And the same with Hugo. He wanted out. We all knew it for ages. The problem is with Daniel Levy is we keep players. The one of 1 million things that annoys me about Daniel Levy is you see these big clubs, i.e., say Man City as an example. They get Mahrez. They go, okay, you can be sold for big money, but we've already got your replacement lined up. We never do that. We let our players hit their peak. For me, Son, they're coming down. In 2 years' time, he's going to be absolutely washed, and everyone's going to be saying, why is this guy still here? Like, get him out of the club. Rather than say, you know what, you've done well, off you go. We'll bring in the next star. But you just kill everything.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, Lubo, I'm not on social media, thank the Lord. And thank the Lord for Mason Greenwood as well, pulling one back for Marseille. So they just need 3 goals in 21 minutes to save my acca. Come on, Greenwood.
Said no one ever.
Said no one ever. Come on, Højbjerg. A 21-minute hat trick from Højbjerg to save it. Lubo, this is the funny thing. I'm getting so many excerpts sent to me, right, from social media about how quickly our fans turn on the ex-players, the ex-managers. They did it. And this comment, right? Yeah, look, the Levy lovers turning on Hugo. This comment as well. People turning on Hugo a week after turning on Hoddle, because Hoddle basically came out and said, this isn't a club that, I question Daniel, whether he's wanted to win, whether he's done enough on the pitch. Still, Ian, we still got fans who go, nah, it's not the club, it's these ex-players and it's these ex-managers. How much more evidence do they need?
No idea. There's... Now a stranger's folk. What can you say?
It's madness, though. Like, I saw
Savva,
the hate for Glenn.
I think everyone should apologise to us, to be honest. Don't you think?
Who's that?
Everyone should apologise to us for being right about Daniel Levy for all these years.
No, it's English as well. It's not just Levy, it's Lewis as well. Let's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's not forget. It's interestingly enough. I don't know how true this is. I was told about 3 years ago, Levy signed off on a £60 million transfer. Wasn't told who it was. My own personal feeling was it may have been Zaha, but I wasn't. But that's just me speculating. And Lewis pulled the plug, wouldn't allow it, because at the end of the day, he signs the checks as a senior shareholder. So it's not just Levy; it's the betterment. It's it's that whole ethos. That's of Enoch coming in, buying the club, using it as a platform to make a profit. Everybody's heard me talk about my experience at the AGM and how I feel about Enoch and the way I feel cheated. I feel the last 24 years, virtually most of the 24 years, I've been cheated. I don't expect there's no guarantee of trophies. Just have owners who want us to be in the game. That's all. Just be in the game.
I agree.
That's it.
That's it. It's not even in the game for me. It's just about trying to be in the game. I'm not even bothered about being in the. I am bothered about being in, but I'm not bothered if they say, you know what, we need, like now, if they said Son's on the way down, we're going to try our best and sign someone like Mitoma. Right, we hope that this guy is going to come through. They just don't.
But we mean the same thing. We're just saying it differently.
Yeah.
Being in the game is competing. Doesn't mean you're going to win. You know, at the end of the day, your recruitment, your coach, your players, the way they adapt to the coaches, you know, what they do out on the pitch, they've got to be better than the competition on the day, every week, every month, every season. So there's no guarantees. You just got to make sure that you try and pick the right, you know, the best people to get you there. You know,
the crazy thing is, though, it is. Look, as I said, it's all the small things that add up. Not one of these incidents you go, oh my God, it's terrible, right? And on the face of it, like Swanwick says here, I do feel like you're missing a point, Swanwick. I don't think it's about the players having a watch. I'm pretty sure they've all got the most expensive watches in the world. I think it's more about the fact that it was given to them and engraved on the back was finalists rather than let's wait until after the game and see if we've won it.
Absolutely.
But there's another part of it. It's the fact that Levy, rather than dipping into his own personal pocket and buying the players' watches as a show of gratitude for their achievement of reaching the final, it's a sponsor, you know, instead. And effectively, Lloris is telling a story, right? He's highlighting, look, this is the mentality of the top man at Tottenham Hotspur. The guy who's running the club, and it's a loser mentality. And he's not saying it in those exact words, but he's doing that by telling the story, right?
But for me,
if they get to this year's final, he's going to bring them in and give them all some deluxe paint from.
No,
here you go, guys. Go and paint your living rooms.
He'll ask for the watches back and give them back out again.
Yeah. Has anyone got their watches from 5 years ago?
In that scenario, though, you know, like if we sat, I presume 3 days before the final, a week before the final, they all sat down and they said, blah blah blah. But if he gave out watches that said winners, I can only add for myself. If I saw winners, I'd be like, yeah, fucking right, we're gonna go win this cup. Like we are gonna go do this. Whereas if you get it, go finalist, you're gonna go, we made it. You know what I mean? Like that maybe it's me looking at things different, but if I got there and winner, I'd be like, yeah, well, I ain't going to be wearing that if I ain't winning, so I'm going to go there and win.
It's like he gave them a second place medal before they'd even stepped on the pitch, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maz, the interesting thing is that it's gone full circle. And the reason I say that, just going back to the trust evening last week, a lot of the conversation with David Pleat was about the 1987 season. And somebody asked him about the semi-final in the League Cup against Arsenal.
Did we finish third that season, wasn't it? Is it third?
We finished third, but we lost to Coventry in the final. We went out to Arsenal in the semi of the League Cup. And so that for the older fans here, who they will remember that at half time, I think it was, I can't think whether it was the second leg or the actual third game replay. The announcer came out at half time and he was talking about cup final tickets. And, you know, and we were 1 goal ahead of Arsenal. I think we were 2-0 up on aggregate, and the guys come out at half time and said, you know, cup final tickets will be going on sale in such and such. And Arsenal were listening to this in the dressing room. So
can we blame Levy for that, even though it's 87?
87.
Levy?
And the announcer was there in the front row last week. So guys, he wasn't talking behind his back, but
guys,
we got full circle from that.
I'm sure you guys could chip in with some names. This is Lloris saying things about him. This is Hoddle saying things about him. AVB has come out and said things about him. Poch has come out and said things about him. I've never known a chairman get talked about by maybe it's because I don't support another club, but you're on mute, by the way, Maz. But I've never known a chairman get talked about this much by ex-players, ex-managers, directors of football have come out and said that they weren't given what they needed. It's madness. Talking of things that we didn't need. Here's Lee. How are you, mate? You good?
Oh, full up. Absolutely full up with faggots.
Faggots. You've been eating Mr. Brain's faggots this evening. I like Mr. Brain's. I do. I like them.
It's a treat. It's like my birthday.
It's a treat. Is it your birthday?
No. It's like it, though.
Oh, I thought I was going to say, what are you doing spending it with us? We're just talking about, the number of people now that have come out and said stuff about Daniel Levy over the last 15, 20 years. Yol being sacked at half time. AVB saying, hang on, I was promised, was it João Moutinho that he was promised and then he was given someone else? One day Ramos was promised XYZ and was given absolutely nobody. Redknapp said stuff, Hoddle, Lloris. This can't be a coincidence. Surely there's not a witch hunt. It's just the truth, right?
Berbatov, Ramon Vega, Jose Mourinho, Conte said.
Yeah.
The list is endless, isn't it?
It's one of the reasons why a lot of people say a lot of managers and a lot of other clubs avoid dealing with Levy or going there as managers, because it seems to be the most it seems to be the promised land, but ends up being the most toxic place in the world for most people. They're sold the earth and then given the Isle of Wight. Nothing ever turns out like it was like it's supposed to, is it?
If anyone's from Isle of Wight, mate, I'm really sorry about Lee.
Listen, I would. Me too, mate. Me too. Listen, I imagine that Ange was probably sold, the best story he's ever heard, and he can never turn this kind of thing down. And reality set in very, very quickly, right? The amount. This is one of the things why I think he has backtracked on a lot of the stuff that he says. Or he says, oh, no, I'm saying it this way and that way. Because, when you come in and you start saying these things and the realization sets in that actually it's not what you think it's going to be. And it's not like you expect it to turn out. And then there's always got to be an excuse for what you said in the first place. So it doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, Harry Kane said it as well. Sorry, I'm having a nightmare here. I don't know what's happened. Sorry. I don't know what has happened to my...
Hey!
Lubo. Sorry. Hang on, wasn't it? It seemed to be a lot bigger, and then I've ruined it somehow. Sorry. Anyway, as you were, guys. Somebody else made a point. Harry Kane said it. One of our own said it. Harry Kane, Glenn Hoddle, one of our own. It's just gone mad. But anyone else got anything desperately they want to say about this situation before we move on to something else that's probably as fast as Tottenham?
The only thing I would sort of say, and it kind of probably leads on to the next person, but the only thing I would say is, I know a lot of people want Ange out, and I don't, to be honest. I'm bored of that. And my reason being is, we've had, for me, the three best managers I've seen in the last God knows how long is Mourinho, Conte, and Pep. We've had two of those guys, and they've both failed.
Yeah. We
can't keep going, next guy's going to be all right because we'll just do the basics. They don't. You can't do the basics when you've got a mediocre team. It doesn't work.
But I think the problem with that, James, is that it will always circle back to the manager no matter what happens. We're always going to have this discussion.
But how many times are we going to circle?
24 years and counting. I mean,
that's what I mean. So should we just keep going?
Well, we're going to have to until something changes, right? I mean, what else do we talk about? You're talking about...
No, but if people aimed their hate towards Levy and not Ange...
I agree.
Well, I thought, was it... I don't know if it was last season or the season... I think it was the season before last where we got Ange in. I think the fans were slowly getting to Levy. And I think if the fans stayed on that same wavelength, I think we may have... I mean, now, for example, if they turn straight back to Levy and started pointing fingers at Levy again, I just think there's more chance of us sort of getting investment and buyers if this hatred is at Levy, not Ange. I think Ange is Daniel Levy's safety blanket.
Can I ask you a question, though? First of all, I'm going to caveat this because people will clip me otherwise or make videos about me because they've not listened to what I've said. I'm not sitting here saying Ange out. I'm not. But surely when we have this conversation about manager versus chairman, can't two things be right at once? Just because I don't like Daniel Levy doesn't mean that any manager that comes in, I automatically go, not your fault, it's Levy. So, for example, when I look at our absolutely, and I know that Ian will disagree with me. When I look at our diabolical away form, I can't blame that on Daniel Levy. I blame that on Ange Postecoglou not understanding that away from home you need to tighten up. Do you know what I mean? So it's things like that where I think they're two different conversations for me.
Yeah, I agree.
The conversation is why haven't we won things consistently? Why haven't we won a title? Why? Right? Then I can turn around and go, yeah, that one sits with Levy. But if we're talking about the general management of a football team, every football club talks about their manager. Arsenal fans right now are starting to have this conversation, right? Arteta in, Arteta out. I'm not saying we are at Spurs, but right, they're having that. There are Man City fans complaining about Pep Guardiola, believe it or not. Complaining about Pep Guardiola, right? There are. Yeah, go on.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's one of the reasons why when Pochettino near the end, when he started saying I'm a coach and not a manager, you then have a reason to then start looking up at the board, because that's what Poch was effectively doing. He was giving us clues to say, look upwards, type thing. Jose done the same thing, and again, you get clues when we were signing players like Rodon and Jedson Fernandez and God knows who else, right? You looked at that and you thought, would Jose Mourinho really want those players? And then he'll start saying things, wasn't he, in this, when he was getting upset in the press conferences and throwing players under the bus, and you knew something was wrong. So then you start looking upwards. Same with Conte. You could tell things were going wrong after, in that second, when he started the second season. And again, you start looking upwards. However, you're absolutely right. Two things can be true. So when Ange starts making rudimentary footballing mistakes, what we believe is rudimentary, you can absolutely criticize him just on that footballing side alone, rather than looking at Levy. If you're going to do a root cause analysis, then yeah, sure, everything's ultimately Levy's fault. But you're right. You've got to judge each of the managers by one, what they do on the football pitch, the decisions they make, and then look at the bigger picture.
You know what you said there about Mourinho? Isn't Ange doing exactly the same thing?
Ange is playing along with it massively. And
yes, he is playing along with it, and don't get me wrong, I think he should be calling it out. But he did say, "Well, we're going to go for the league next year," or blah blah blah, and then now that's changed. And as soon as the summer window's finished, bang, it changed. So for me, was it like, right, we're going to back you with the likes of X, Y, Z, Conor Gallagher, blah 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 blah. When it's actually got through, they haven't signed no one, and he's like, well, now I've died on that hill because I've come out and said, blah blah blah. We haven't been backed. Now it's all on me. And don't get me wrong. Again, I've said he just needs to shut up. If he just doesn't say anything, no one looks at him in a bad way. If he just said nothing last season, for me personally, I would say, you know what, mate, you're doing the best you could do with this. I disagree with a lot of the stuff you're doing, but don't come out and say we're going to win the league, we're going to blah blah blah. When that, I did watch that report where she said about him winning trophies in the second year. She went, you're likely to, or you said you win trophies in your second year, and he went, no, I do win trophies in my second year. It wasn't him saying he's going to, or who he has, but I just think the weight of words that he uses and the way he talks, I find it quite a bit like male chauvinist pig, like a bit like, I'm the man here, I'll talk to you how I want to talk to you, this is my interview, and I don't agree with that kind of thing.
What about when he says, listen, I get it, right? No manager, I'm not deluded enough to think that any manager that comes in here is going to go, right, there's the 5 players I want, and Levy will go, yeah, sorted, boom, boom, boom. I get it, right? But when he comes out, he says things that he doesn't have to say. Like, he says so many things where you think, just stop talking. Like, The one last week when he's questioned about leadership and he goes into this big monologue rather than saying, look, yeah, we don't have a lot of leaders. It's something we need to address, right? Rather than leaving it at that, there are two ways of getting leadership. There's two ways, you can either acquire it or you can build it. And for me, I've chosen this path because I want young players, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. Then that means it's on you. Like when you say that, it's now on you that when we're going, oh, we've got no leaders. Well, okay, but the manager said, I'm paraphrasing, the manager might as well have said, I don't want leaders. I want kids.
Yeah. In that, if he only said that first part, he would have gained so many, I believe, followers or supporters. If he said you either require leaders or you build leaders and said nothing else, we would have gone, and guess what? We're never going to buy the leaders, are we? But then he kind of rambles on and says, and he kind of, you know what he does? He kind of says, right, is he on Levy? Nah, I'm going to take it all back. That's how I kind of feel like he kind of goes, there's the first carrot. Now, actually, I'll take that back. That's what I feel he does.
So on Hugo Lloris, bringing it back to Hugo Lloris, I think one of the things that is key in what he said is effectively, for me, the takeaway is how Daniel Levy's meddling all the time. Mm-hmm. He's constantly meddling. He needs to be that CEO, that chairman that doesn't get involved with the players at all, but he's constantly meddling, and he's done it throughout his whole tenure at Spurs. And one camp will say, yeah, but it's his club, he can do whatever he wants. Another camp saying, yeah, fine, it might be your club, but if you stay out of the football side and let the football run the football, maybe we'll be more successful and even make you even more money than it has before. So anyway, that's my takeaway from the Lloris quotes.
You know what I worry? Oh, sorry.
No, go.
You know what I worry about is it's all well and good making money now, and don't get me wrong, he's making stacks and stacks and stacks of it. But I think I've said it before. I look at it as like my son. I say to my son, "You can have a football kit. Who do you want on the back?" He goes, "No one. Not very good, are they?" And I'm like, "Oh, what?" Well, when I was growing up, I had a list as long as your arm. The Ginolas, and even 10 years ago, your Bows, Defoe's. Like now, there's just
Otto.
Eric Edmond. There's just none. There's actually just none.
The porn star Benoit Assou-Ekotto.
But as a whole, so he's making loads of money now. But in my opinion, the amount of fans that he's probably losing, and none of these kids want to support Spurs. Because if we're going to compare sort of Tottenham to Arsenal, which is where I grew up, Enfield, and it was always one or the other. There was no one else. It was one or the other. Arsenal kind of seem to have it right, whereas they're kind of enticing all the young kids, the 300 kits a season, the training kit, this, that. They're pushing up the league. Whereas us, realistically, you wouldn't pick Tottenham unless you was born into Tottenham.
Yeah, it's madness. Look, I agree. Let's move on to a different subject, shall we? I don't want to talk about yesterday's game just yet. I would like to talk about we've done that, man, haven't we? We've talked about that guy. I want to talk about this. Okay, today, Ange Postecoglou has revealed that Richarlison will be sidelined for a significant amount of time with a hamstring injury. Now, significant amount of time. I'm going to ask a point-blank question, and I want to see the reaction. Is Richarlison, pound for pound, in the top 3 worst signings Tottenham have ever made? I'm just chucking it out there. 60, 65 million.
There's been some stinkers.
Nowhere near, Sam. Nowhere near.
Okay, but I'm talking pound for pound, 60 to 65 million for what we've got. What have we got? 13 goals, 15 goals from this guy in 2.5 years. Always injured, falling around on the floor. Like, I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. I think you're wrong. I think he is the worst we've ever signed. I think he's tragic.
I disagree.
I've never seen someone that can't control a ball, can't finish a ball, can't run with a ball, works hard occasionally, I give him that, and he's good in the air. Mate, I'll work hard for you if you want to give me that kind of money every week. No worries. Like, I'm sorry. I've never seen... You know when you get like these average players that have good games, you're like, "God, that was a good game, but he's crap." I've never seen him do that. He had a good 10 minutes against Marseille where he scored 2 headers. Name me anything he's ever done. I'm sorry, I think he's awful. I think he's so bad.
I mean, some guy said Rebrov. I'll take Rebrov now.
Hands
in
down.
his old decrepit age than Richarlison.
Wasn't he just like Arshavin's ugly brother, wasn't
he? I've said this many times on Tottenham Way. He's got the worst first touch and the worst second touch I've ever seen. Right. And Savva, you said it right yesterday. I've never seen a player fall on the floor so much in my life than Richarlison.
Man, I don't know. James Maddison's catching up with him pretty quick.
Yeah,
He's
but
on
at
the
least
floor every
Maddison
5 seconds. James Maddison, if you ever want to know what the fetal position is, just go and see James Maddison in a match, because he's in it about 15 times every match.
I think you're right, Savva. I think pound for pound, definitely in the top 3 up there. 100%.
I'm just asking. I've not said this, and for me, Ndombele for me, pound for pound, is the worst. If I'm going to say, in terms of,
disagree.
At least Ndombele scored good goals.
And he had good games. He had a good game.
Hang on. But pound for pound, this guy was at the football club for 5 years and did nothing. Like nothing. Like he spent most of the time out on loan, right? So just to give you some headline stats, I've just checked. I thought some of the names that are being chucked out there, let's have a look at some of their goal ratios and stuff. Richarlison, in all games, has played 73 times for Tottenham. How many goals do you think he's got in 73 appearances?
20?
No,
20?
15.
15?
No idea.
He got 14 last season, didn't he? So
James not understanding how guessing games work.
In his first season or second season?
3, just because I hate him.
3. You just mentioned 2 he got in one game against Marseille.
Yeah, I don't like him, so I don't care. I'm not giving him no credit.
All right, 3, 20, 15, and Lee?
23.
He's played 73 games for Tottenham Hotspur and scored 16 goals.
Oh,
right. Now, let's have a look at Sergei Rebrov, right? Sergei Rebrov, in a strange twist of events, played 75 games for Spurs. 75. So we're in the same ballpark, right? How many goals did Sergei Rebrov get? And bearing in mind, Sergei Rebrov, different time, different era, didn't cost £60 million.
How many starts?
Less goals.
How many starts have Richie made, and how many starts has Rebrov made? Because
I've got their wiki pages up, mate. I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Richie came on a sub. You know, when Harry was at the club, Richie was coming on a sub the whole time, wasn't he? Apart from the odd occasion Kane was injured. It was like a few minutes. So it's not like 73 times 90 minutes, is it? It's, you know.
I think it's about 10 goals. I don't think Rebrov scored. But the difference is Rebrov, I remember when he first came, you could tell that he was a good player and that his wavelength was completely different to the players around him. Whereas Richarlison, I mean, his nickname's the Pigeon, for God's sake.
So,
I must say this though. You look at Ndombele, Sessegnon. I mean, someone's just put Postecoglou.
I need to get to my point. I was trying to get to my point. Richarlison has 16 goals in 2.5 seasons, right? Mm-hmm. Just under 2.5 seasons. Rebrov scored 15 goals for Tottenham in 2 seasons, right? And Roberto, yeah, it was, wasn't it? Roberto Salgado. He got 16 goals. They all played between 73 and 76 times each for Tottenham Hotspur, right? Now, the reason why I say he's pound for pound one of the worst for me, and I haven't looked at the comments, there's 81 comments,
times as much.
Is yes, it's a different time in football, but this guy costs 60 to 65, whatever it is. I don't know how it works out.
I think before add-ons, and I think the Dele Alli situation was part of that as well. I think it was under 50. This thing about 60 is a myth because it includes
it was at least 50. All right,
so
it was at least
50,
50. Yeah. Right. And the Brazil international to score 16 goals across 2.5 seasons in a team that for a season and a half of that have attacked is absolutely diabolical. Now chuck in his injuries, his lack of ability on a football. Right, Soldado and Rebrov for me weren't the greatest. But for me, we brought Soldado and Rebrov in and played them completely the wrong way. But both could play. Both were technically good.
That's
I
what I was
watched
going to say.
Richarlison.
I mean, Rebrov was top goal scorer in the
dreadful.
Champions League, wasn't he? Sorry to cut you up. So
No, you're right.
Rebrov, when we signed him, he came. Who did he play for again?
Dynamo Kiev.
That's it, Dynamo Kiev. He came off the back of being the top goal scorer, I think, in the Champions League or whatever thing he was at the time. So we bought him on good authority that he was good. We bought Richarlison off. Well, what did we buy him off? Him working hard at Everton. I mean, like Soldado, he had a good record before he came to Spurs. These were good footballers. Fine, they might have not been the best and all of that stuff, but they were good footballers. They had a touch. They had vision. They had,
Look at this. This is a guy we paid 50 to 60 million for, right? We keep doing this. His best ever season in all competitions for over what's that, a decade? 7 seasons before he came to Spurs. His best ever season was 15 in all competitions for Everton. And I believe in that season, 5 of them were penalties. Like, for me, this has just been an absolute monumental
bowler.
I just think this has been one of the worst players we've ever saw. I think he's dreadful. I don't know what he's good at.
It's not
shithousery. That is not a skill. That is not a football skill.
No. For me, I'm not even going to read into the stats because I think I said this before on your channel. One of my all-time favourite player, and I believe he's yours, is David Ginola. The guy was mustard. But his stats ain't actually very good. But when you just watch the player and you go, holy shit, this geezer can play football. I don't even see that in Richarlison. So not only does he foul the stats list, he's fucking dreadful to watch on the eye. And this is why, for me, he's
Ginola
the worst.
So influential, though.
This is what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. You can't always look at stats because Bobby Firmino, another one, not on many goals, but he just makes the team tick. He's a good player.
The difference is when you're going to use a player like Ginola played in a 4-4-2 as a left winger.
I agree. I agree.
In those days, left wingers weren't scoring 15, 16 goals.
I was just kind of trying to use it as like a point, though. Like, even if you took the stats out of that, sometimes Bobby Firmino, maybe that's a better comparison because the goals wasn't there. But when you could just look at a player and go, yeah, he's got it. But he's got whatever it is. He's good at that. Romero. People don't like Romero, and I get it. And I'm 50-50. You would never say that geezer ain't aggressive. Like he's just got that in his nature. What does Richarlison have? Like, what does he have? What does he bring? Because I've never seen him bring anything other than crying like a little prick. I'm sick of the guy. I think he's the worst player to ever play for Spurs, ever, that I've seen.
Come on, James. Raziak, Andy Booth, come on.
I'll take
that all day long.
They were the piss.
These guys,
they were dreadful.
But Raziak and Booth were bought as very last-minute, cheap deals that cost next to nothing that you knew weren't here.
Fraser Campbell. Come on.
Fraser Campbell.
At the time, Ian, Richarlison was our second most expensive signing of all time, behind Ndombele. Like, that is for that money. I'm not saying you have to get 30 goals a season, but show me something in your footwork.
Even his personality, he's got a fucking tattoo of his face on his back. What a fucking bellend. I'm sorry, ain't it like Neymar, him and somebody else got his own face tattooed on his back? You've got to be some kind of prick to do that. I'm sorry. Like, absolute twat. Absolute twat.
I just look at that, and again, the reason why I put Ndombele in there is Tungai Ndombele, for me, absolutely mugged this club off for 5 years, right? For 5 years, he mugged this club off time and time and time. Sorry, was it 5 or 6?
I think it was 5, but it was a 6-year contract and he let him go, wasn't it? I think.
No, I think it was 5 years. Who? Ndombele?
Yeah. Because I think he signed a 6 years.
After the Champions League. So it was 1920. So it was 5 years.
So in 5 years, this guy was let go on loan by about 5 different managers, couldn't keep a place with any of them in the 11, got fat, then thin, then fat again, lost his place in the French squad, went out on loan in Turkey, couldn't even impress for Galatasaray. Yeah. And the reason why I'm going to say pound for pound, not only did Ndombele cost £60 million, he was making £10 million a year in salary. Yeah, so all in all, for 5 years of 54. Nothing, for 5 years, right? It was a
110 million. So 110 million.
That's my point. Now add the 5 million we had to pay to get rid of him, right? His wages. We've paid 115 million to Ndombele over 5 years, pound for pound. That's got to go down as one of the worst transfers of all time for any club when you look at the sheer cost associated to it versus what you returned. So I'm not saying he wasn't talented, but
So what I'd say is I judge my players by football, and I've seen him have a couple of good games. I've never seen Richarlison have a good game. So that's why I would put Richarlison worse, because for me, all right, that's the club's fault for paying him all that money. The way he acted was obviously disgusting. But for me, I thought he had 2, 3, 4. Was it Mourinho had a really good season? Was it Mourinho had one good season, I think?
I don't think he had a good season with anyone, did he?
But he had a few good. Well, I mean, Declan Rice was coming out, and people was just like, yeah, he's one of the best midfielders in the league. But for me, I've seen moments from him where I've never seen moments from Richarlison. Richarlison to me is just fucking shit. I'm sorry.
Well, I understand that, but as I said, Richarlison's not on 200 grand a week.
Like, but I'm talking about the football player. For me,
I understand, but surely it's got to be what output. At least with it, I can't believe this has started from me talking about Richarlison being one of the worst 3 ever to now sticking up for him against Ndombele. Like, at least with Richarlison, when he's on the pitch, his one asset is he works bloody hard. I'll give him that. He works hard. I'll give him that, right? Ndombele couldn't even work hard. I remember Ndombele got booed off, right, against Morecambe in the cup.
Yeah, I agree.
Ndombele against Morecambe should be saying, give me the ball. I am going to control this game and run rings around these League 1, League 2 players, whatever they were. He got booed off. That surely sums up Ndombele, doesn't it?
I'd boo Richarlison off every game if I could.
Hang on, James. Let me put this out to everybody. Let me put this out to everybody.
James would start him every game just to sub him off in the first minute.
Yeah. I'm not talking.
Eric Dyer in the Champions League, wouldn't it? That would be me.
James, I'm not talking about anybody's specific ability. So this is just a general comment. Following Harry Kane is like any manager following Alex.
Oh, I'm not having this. I'm sorry. This argument is just pointless, because I don't want him. Anybody will never follow Harry Kane. But missing open goals and sitters is just ridiculous, to be honest. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not buying that.
It's impossible, doesn't it?
Because when he had a run of games last season, he scored 13 in 14 games.
And Ndombele's one league.
I'm talking about Richarlison.
Yeah, he's awful, mate. I'm sorry. All of his goals were 3-yard tap-ins. He did absolutely nothing. I'm sorry. He scored one good goal.
I was at Goodison last year. He hit 2 crackers from the edge of the box.
That was the only time I've ever seen him score like anything half decent. For me, you can put your Richarlison shirt away, set it on fire, get him out of the club.
I don't think he's one of the worst 3 signings.
I don't think we've ever sold a Richarlison shirt. We have to find out.
Ian's got one. Johnny's got one.
Oh,
Iggy's got one.
it's been interesting seeing some of the names. Seeing some of the names in the chat. I think what
He's got one like side
in the chat have got to understand is when I said pound for pound, I'm not saying there hasn't been worse footballers, right? But some of these worst footballers haven't cost 60, 50 million, whatever it was, right? So when we're looking at, again, Davinson Sanchez, 42 million, not a fan at all. At least he gave us that one good season when he played alongside Toby and Jan. I'm going to give him that. And then after that, when they went, he looked dreadful. But there are players that we can all name names. We can all name names like this, but I'm talking about in terms of the money, the monetary aspect.
Yeah.
We are crap when we sign expensive players, aren't we? We can't do it. We can't do it.
And this is why I don't think we do. I think Levy's realised that, and that's why we don't do it.
I must say, I'm hopeful that Solanke will be a good buy. You just
my only thing with Solanke, I think you're not us. I think Ange is making him do
Solanke's a
job. Yeah, I think he's trying to. Me personally, I think he's trying to turn him into Harry Kane, rather than realise that Harry Kane was generational. No man can drop that deep and play those balls and get in the box and finish the chances. So I think that we're trying to buy a Harry Kane back, and it's just not the same. See, where you compared Richarlison to Harry Kane, I think we could compare Solanke more to Harry Kane by the way they play than you could Richarlison to Kane.
Well, listen, Solanke started getting in the box a lot in the last week. He's bagged 3 goals.
I think Solanke, at least he's on a trajectory upwards. I'm more impressed with him than the first. You know, at least he's improving as he's going along, as opposed to just getting worse or not doing anything.
Agreed.
He's got a few goals, but we
look,
surprised.
I'm not going to write him off. I'm not going to write him off on just 10 games or however many games he's
got 9 goals and assists so far this season. It's not a bad record.
But I'm not as great as
Fat. He's done in the Premier League.
He could have done much better than him. But, you know, I'm not going to diss him for that. But, Stav, you said a good point. In reference to like us spending big money on players and always getting it wrong, is it the managers doing that, or is it Daniel Levy constantly doing that? Because if more likely it's Daniel Levy, and if so, he's the problem. Maybe he should give the money to a manager like Conte, Jose, Pochettino, who can actually identify a good player and work with them.
I think it's both. Couldn't it be both again? Because I think. I think Solanke and Johnson were both Ange. Or I know Solanke and Johnson were both Ange, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think players like Richarlison, I'm sorry, there is no way you've got those big dogs saying, yeah, give me Richarlison. What we did here is people like, was it Jose or Conte said that they didn't want Ollie Watkins and players like that? But
Jose told Pleat, I don't want him. Pleat went to Jose and said, I can get you Watkins. You know, Brentford are selling him. Jose said, I don't want him.
Yeah, but maybe Jose's goals. No, but you see, I hate shit like this, right? Because it's so unrealistic. Jose's used to signing top players in Europe, right? Yeah, top footballers. And then you got a guy going to him, oh, do you want Ollie Watkins from Brentford? He's probably thinking, no, I want, I don't know, some guy in Italy or
I want Lautaro Martinez.
Yeah, like, you know, you can't. You know, it's all very well doing that with hindsight, isn't it? Like looking at Ollie Watkins doing it now and then saying, "Oh yeah, we should have got him 3-4 years ago." It's I think it's
like Jose and Conte are the type of guys that you're getting in the boardroom and they're sitting there looking through the Selfridges catalogue, and then you know, Levy walks in and goes, "No, here's the Argos." You know, read that. You know what I mean? For me, guys, I just can't believe that anyone walked into Levy's office with and literally went, let's pay £60 million for Richarlison. I just don't. I can't. How has that conversation even happened? I mean, it just goes to show you that Levy's got no footballing sense whatsoever, because anyone with half a brain cell would never pay that money. So obviously someone's spinning him a story. You couldn't even lay the stats out in front of you like you've just put up on the screen. You couldn't walk into someone and go, this is the striker we want. He only scored 7 goals last season. Oh, let's pay £60 million for him, or £50 million. Sorry, I won't say 60 again. It's just absolute madness. someone has literally, it's like he's buying them off Temu or something like that.
But do you know what, Lee? You make a great point there, because I think that's a really interesting conversation, right? I think if Ange had been in situ at the time when an Ollie Watkins was offered, I think that's an Ange type player, right? Because Ange, I don't care what anyone says, Ange isn't used to managing the top players. He's not. Wherever he's been, he wouldn't have had the top players. Am I right? At Celtic, he's managing players that wouldn't even get into the Spurs B team or into mid-table teams, right? The difference is, like you said, Lee or Maz or whoever said it, Joe, you know, when someone's going into Joe's hand going, right, Jose, we want you to win us things. Here's Joe Roden. Just go, fuck, what? What? Hang on, I sent you out to Italy to bring back Skriniar. Like, I sent you out there to bring that warrior, that beast from Inter Milan. And you're bringing me back Joe Roden, who's, 19, 20 from Swansea. That's the difference. I think Ange will take them because, and again, I'm not knocking him, but Ange has never managed top players, doesn't know how to manage big egos. Jose manages big egos. Conte manages big egos. So there's a huge difference to me. Pep can buy any player in the world he wants, because it doesn't matter whether you are Lionel Messi, and we've seen him manage Messi, or Haaland or De Bruyne. When Pep walks into the room, they go, shit, that's Pep Guardiola. When he talks, I'm listening, right? Not only was he a absolutely, I'm sure most of us remember him playing, he was a top player, right? And he's one of the best managers the world's ever seen, right? Those players, people say, oh, they get, managers like Pep and Ferguson, they had the best players because they can manage them. They can manage those egos. Yeah, I don't think an Ange could. And I think that's why he wants Solankis, Johnsons. And no offense, I think they're the level down from those big clubs because they've not got the big egos. They're happy to be at Tottenham. It's a privilege for them to be at Tottenham.
Savva, don't you think this is actually a very interesting conversation? Don't you think that the type of players that we've been linked with have steadily declined with the type of managers that we've got? So Jose comes in and we're looking at Skriniar, or right. Conte comes in, we're looking at who's that other Bastoni, that's it. Bastoni. Right. Nuno comes in, all of that goes out the window, right? And you're looking at a lower set of players, right? Ange comes in, right? You're looking at the players below that level again. Right, okay, fine, we'll link to Eze, but none of that happened. So now, what top player is going to come to Spurs? Because they're not going to come because of Ange, or certainly not that caliber of player.
The way we're going, mate, I've taken Audi Cup. The way things are going, it's like, let's bring back those days of the Audi Cup. But it's true.
The players that Ange got that he wanted last season in the summer window were Mickey, Maddison, and Johnson. The rest, the Basumas, the Vicarios, etc., they came before. I think he also went for Veliz. I think Solomon was probably done separately because that was a free transfer. And then he went on. He got Dragusin and Werner in January, and then the five guys.
But that's not impressive, though, Ian. Like with all due respect, I mean, Vicky Van de Ven for me is my favourite player currently in this squad. But I don't really like any of our players. But I like Vicky Van de Ven because he's got shades of, I don't know, just reminds me of Jan a little bit, but it's nowhere near as good as Jan. But if you look at Vicario, Maddison, Mickey Van de Ven, they weren't in teams that were vying for the leagues or Champions League, were they? They're bottom half players. It just so happens that Vicario's half decent, Mickey Van de Ven's half decent, Maddison's decent, right? So, and all of the subsequent players you named, they're literally nobodies. So the standards of players, and I've been saying this over many, many years and shows now, the standards of players we've gone for has drastically dropped from Potter's era, Redknapp's era, etc., etc. It's drastically dropped.
Do you know what's interesting about this as well, Maz, is that for a manager that doesn't coach players, the last thing you want to do is bring in players that need to be coached, right? Younger players, right? People that you think you can get a tune out of, but you need to coach them. You need to find their strengths. We know that Ange doesn't do that. Ange's philosophy is, I go into a club, I'm the manager, here's my system, I play in that system, people play out of position, it doesn't matter as long as they understand the system. We know he doesn't coach players, so why... That's why I don't think he's the best guy for a project. He's the kind of guy that you put into a EPL team that's already got good standard of players for that league. I'm not going to say like put him in Man City in a Pep role with all those players, because I don't think he's at that level. But you put him in a good team with a good set of players, and they can play the system because they've got a bit of footballing brain and can adapt. I think that's where he goes into. You put him into any kind of top 6 club in the Premier League, and having that philosophy, I don't think it works. And for me, going back to the other question about, I think that the conversation about Levy and Ange is 100% 2 different conversations. Levy's one problem. For me, Ange, I'm Ange out and would have him out right now, purely because I don't necessarily see the way that he's working the system good enough to get us anything right now. But I do think we've got a group of players that could potentially do something. I just think it's too flip-flop with him. It really is. It's too flip-flop. It's too inconsistent. And
Can I jump on? So can I jump on to the whole thing about where we buy players from?
Mate,
the last time we
YouTube, go for it.
The last time we bought a player from one of the other big clubs, I think, was Robbie Keane from Liverpool.
Who we bought to replace Robbie Keane.
So that's right, absolutely. You look at that. Look at the team. Lloris came from Lyon. Walker came from Sheffield United. Rose came from Leeds.
Yeah.
Toby came from.
Toby came from Atletico Madrid,
but he was on loan at Southampton, wasn't he? He on loan at Southampton.
Correct. Yeah, Jan came from Ajax. Ericsson came from Ajax. Dele came from MK Dons. Sonny came from Dortmund, was it? Leverkusen. Who else is there?
Who wasn't big back then, by the way. They're bigger now than they were back then.
Dembele came from Fulham. Wanyama came from
Southampton.
Yeah. Listen,
they're all smaller clubs than Spurs, so nothing's changed.
No. There's a difference, Ian. No. There's a difference.
All right.
They may have come from smaller clubs, but they were playing at clubs below their level. They were 100% already established, better technical players than what we're bringing in right now. I don't think anyone we're bringing in is technically gifted, but whether you look at their stats, whether you look at them in the games, I don't think you can agree that anyone that we've had over these summer transfer windows and stuff, you look at them and go, yeah, I've watched him play. He's definitely one for us. They're all either unknowns.
But for me, there's 2.
Which ones then, James? Don't say Johnson.
Richarlison.
Oh, Jesus. Clip that. Sav, clip that.
For me, it was James Maddison. I know people say about that, but he was mustard. He was mustard there, only for half a season. But when he was on, he was a player that Man City would pick up, or if it was Newcastle would have picked him up. He would have sat in front of Joe Linton and Grimerish, or whatever his name is, and he would be a complete different player. So for me,
what's the difference to Maddison?
He's doing exactly what he did at Leicester. We all got told what was going to happen with him.
Yeah. Even though that, I'm not that enamoured with Maddison, I think he's a very good player, and I think he's doing better than a lot of our other midfielders in certain aspects, and worse in other aspects. But I do think that was a good signing. I think it's a signing that we should have made for sure.
He's a good player. He's a very good player.
Because we were desperately in need of a player like that. But one of the points that you said, Lee, is we brought in the wrong manager I
Agreed.
think
This is
for
where I was
these
going to go.
players, and one thing Andrew's proven to me, certainly this season, and it was evident from last season, is he hasn't improved players. I don't think he's improved players. Maybe you could say Papa Sarr, maybe he's had a few good games, but it's nothing. Yeah.
But Papa Sarr, the difference with Papa Sarr, though, is Papa
going
Sarr does
older,
it for his
he's
country.
He's filling out and he's
World Cup
developing
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We know he doesn't coach players. We've been told, Madison's told us he does not coach players.
Players underage for me are getting worse.
Can I say, I want to talk about this comment, but the Maddison thing as well. Let's be clear, right? The reason we got Maddison is because his value went down to 40 million because Leicester got relegated. Had James Maddison had been at 60 million pounds, which is what they wanted, or they turned down the year before, we wouldn't have got him. The same with Basuma. We waited till Basuma had 1 year left on his contract.
25.
Till Maddison had 1 year on his contract, right? We listen, there's nothing wrong with being opportunistic. You've got to be opportunistic in life. But it feels like all of what we do is opportunistic rather than we need that one signing where you go to a big club and you say, right, so-and-so, listen, I'm not saying you're going to go to Liverpool and go, Luis Diaz, do you fancy Jordan? But if you go to a big club where a player is playing sporadically because they've got a plethora of top players and you go, mate, you want to join us? I'd go, yeah. But we don't do that. Everyone we buy is from that level where it's I'm lucky to be at Tottenham Hotspur rather than Tottenham going, oh my God, how lucky are we to have this player? When we got Klinsmann, you all remember this. Maybe James might be a tad bit younger, but when we got Jurgen Klinsmann, it was like, gee, we have signed. Is that right? I remember watching Teletext and it was like, Tottenham signed Jurgen Klinsmann. And I remember going, no, we have not. Then it all on the news. Remember the days when you had to wait for the newspapers or the 6 o'clock.
For me, it was Van der Vaart. That last out of the season, Van der Vaart, you had, but we've actually signed Van der Vaart. Like hold on a minute.
Hold on. I'll chuck a name out there that I was more surprised than anything, although he was a bit older in his career when he was doing this, but Edgar Davids.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But again, we'll pick up an Edgar Davids when he's at the end of his career. I'm not saying we could get Edgar Davids in his prime, but I'm looking at players.
He would do a job for us now.
I'm looking at players like Bruno Guimaraes, Alexander Isak. I'm looking at players like that and going, how have Newcastle gone out and got 2 quality players like that? But then you get fans saying, but we're Spurs, we can't attract them. Right? Now, this comment here, these guys, I think he's talking about us. That could be the name of our band, guys. We're these guys. Desperately trying to downplay the squad, but at the same time, they say a different manager will be way more successful is wild. JS, I'm going to tell you something, right? How many times throughout the test of football have you seen a group of players underperforming, a new manager goes in and changes things? How many times have you seen a new manager go in and go, that player who's played the last 30 games, I don't want him. Him that never plays, get him in. He suits my... I think the point people were making on this panel is I actually don't think our squad's terrible. Do I think it's brilliant? No. But I don't think this squad should be losing nearly every away game we play. I don't think it's that bad. Like, it's not bad that we should be seeing performances like yesterday. That guys, does anyone want to chip in on that? Because I just feel like the comments a bit silly.
I think it's, personally, you look at the defence that Conte had. Take Romero out because he was in both. Wouldn't you much rather have, Dragerson? I know, listen, he had a bad game yesterday, but he played in a high line that he's not suited to. Wouldn't you rather have Dragerson, Van der Ven, Porro and Udogie rather than Sanchez, Longley, Ben Davis and Dyer? Come on. And in terms of why they didn't buy the Guimaraes and the Isak, my personal feeling is that Paratici knows the Italian market inside out. He had Conte there for 18 months and they picked up some really good buys. Udogie, great buy, 16 million. Great deal. Great deal.
Not worth 5 million.
Best for me.
I don't know. We'll see about a doggy.
Great shot stopper, Vicario, 17 million. Come on,
unbelievable keeper.
Superb deals. Superb deals.
But this is the
he
point.
Also got Bentancur. Hang on, he got Bentancur for 16 million. 16 million, so Bentancur.
But why are they all at that price?
Sometimes you buy good deals. Sometimes you get good deals. Juventus were in trouble financially.
Sometimes. That's the famous. That's what Levy comes in. That's what Levy sits around with Ange and he goes, "These are my players." Sometimes we get a good deal.
James, before Bentancur got that horrible injury at Leicester, he was fantastic.
No,
he was superb.
In some games, right? In some games, again, we're rewriting history.
Oh, he was good. He was good, Sam.
He was really good. But again, in any big game, Bentancur went missing. Against teams like Leeds and Everton at the time, he stood out like a sore thumb. But again, the reason why Udogie was that price, the reason why Vicario was, the reason why Bentancur was, Basuma was, because these players are the next level down. And when you buy players that are the next level down, they're more inconsistent than the level of players that the bigger clubs buy that are consistent, right? Because you pay for your quality. All of our players for me are wildly inconsistent. None of them are consistent.
And I think there's a lot of excuses, and this is where I kind of like back to Ian. There's a lot of excuses for a lot of our players, i.e. Dragoshin. He can't play in the high line. Well, I saw him on the edge of our box get spun about 6, 7, 8, 9 times yesterday. Nothing to do with a high line. Man-to-man defending, he got spun time and time over again. The high line wasn't the issue. But yet people go, but he can't play in the high line. Well, that's good because there was no fucking high line.
So,
and he still got spun.
He was marking a player who was one of the best strikers in Europe. You know,
he wasn't marking anyone. That's the problem.
Well,
I don't think we know a good player. When I say we, I'm going to say the fan base, right?
Yeah.
Look, the overpraising of players is crazy. Look at this, right? So Bentancur is class, right? Bentancur could play for any team in Europe. I'm sorry. Bentancur, for me, has a really good game. And then the next game, I don't notice he's playing and he's subbed off. There's a reason, because he's inconsistent. Now, there's a huge difference, Maz, between me saying he's inconsistent and saying he's not got any quality. But this is what our fans do. This is class is Rodri. Rodri is class, right?
Yeah,
Rodri.
I agree.
Not Bentancur. Like, what are we doing here?
Savva, I think the point.
We're not going to try to play like Rodri.
What I would say.
That's not what I said, Ian. That wasn't the debate. The debate wasn't can we attract Rodri. The debate is our fans call all our players class, right? People in the chat right now, we've got one of the best 11s in the league. It's like, well, okay, if we got one of the best 11s in the league, why do we win one, lose one, win one, lose one, win one, lose one? Right? If we've got one of the best 11s in the league, why does Ange rotate it every game? If we've got one of the best 11s, you keep it. Comments like this, right? Comments like, sorry, 1 second. Comments like this. Where was it? Someone said Bentancur is better than Rice. I'm taking Declan Rice in my midfield all day, every day, because he's consistent every week. We don't know a player. We don't know a player.
Would you say? I think you're absolutely spot on, Sav. But let me put this to you as an addition to what you said. Would you say that a lot of our players were class? However, over the last 2-3 years, they've fallen out of that bracket.
Not
as an
me.
example, so for me, Bentancur under Conte, up until he got injured, was consistent enough and playing and operating at a higher level than everyone around him. And then he was class in that period because Conte had an ability to make certain players better, right? Basuma, when he was at Brighton, was class until he came to Spurs. He had to take a step up, different environment, and then he obviously lost his form.
Then they're not class, are they, Maz? It means they're very good at that level they're at.
Yeah.
The word class here is where I struggle. The word class means more often than not, you are very good. Now, we have fans, right, Kulu, class. Right? Bentancur, class. Stun is class. Solanke's class. Udogi's class. Porro's class. Van der Ven's class. Romero's class. Vicario. Why are we doing what we're doing then? If all of these players are class, I don't think there's a class player at Tottenham Hotspur. I think
Savva, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing. I agree with your point of view. I think what I'm trying to relay across is I do think that for certainly some of them, a very few, some of them are very manager sensitive, and I think that Bentancur is one of those players for me. That is very manager sensitive. And he's got a very good excuse over and above the other players where he had that horrific injury. So
I didn't even think before that he was so listen, he had a really good run before the World Cup. Remember, right? He had a good run. And he had a really good run, but all the games we were playing were Nottingham Forest, Leeds, Everton. Like, I can't name big games where he's consistently turning up, you know, against the Arsenals, against the Liverpools, the Chelseas. These are the games where I want to see Bentancur. And again, people will not be listening to me. I want to see him as a talented footballer run the game. We saw
it Sunday, didn't we? We saw it Sunday.
Against one game.
He didn't run the game.
He's had 2 bad injuries, and it does take time to come back after that. It's not only
excuses. We can't.
I agree with you, Sam. It's very hard to argue against your point on this occasion. I think agree. I think this is where I struggle with is we've consistently signed bottom half division players, and that's what we've ended up with. Inconsistent bottom half division players. Now, the fact that they're able to get 5th for one season, you know, I guess muddies the water a little bit, but that just falls into what you said, is that they're incredibly inconsistent. We get moments of genius and moments of abject failure.
Maz, can I ask you a question? Right? Off the top of your head, how many years has Bentancur been here now?
3.
3 years. How many years has Basuma been here now?
4.
Right?
No,
how many years?
2. Hold on, he only came beginning of last season. Basuma.
No, it wasn't the beginning of last season. It was the beginning of the season before.
Yeah, he signed when.
So 2.5. Right?
Yeah.
So Bentancur's had 3 coming up January. Basuma's had 2.5. Right? It was, Ian, because Basuma's first season was under Conte, not under.
Yeah, 2.5, correct.
2.5 for Basuma, 3 for Bentancur. Papa Sarr's been here for what, 4 years? When was he bought? 4 years ago?
No, he came.
No, I think 3, wasn't it? But then he went out on loan. Did he go out on loan twice?
He went out on loan.
Right, he was signed, if I'm not wrong, under Nuno, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, right, okay.
He was right. So he's had 4, whether he's been on loan or not, he's had 4 years. Bentancur's had 3. Basuma's had 2.5, right? None of them, in all of those years, when we say it, we can blame the managers, whatever. None of them have been consistent. They've all done that throughout their entire tenure.
I agree.
Why? Because they're not at that level. They're good players, right? They're good players. The teams above us, by the level of player above, that are consistent and run midfields week in, week out. There's a huge
Yeah, but Sav, the problem with what you're saying, I'm really conflicted because I agree with you a lot, right, on this. But the problem I have is we've had 1 good manager and 2 bad managers. Conte was good, Nuno was not good, Ange's not good.
But listen, okay, let's focus on this word class. First of all, again, people like Billy, like we're calling Papa Sarr class. Again, I told you, we don't know how to judge footballers. We put them all on these ridiculous pedestals. Another midfielder who's never made the position his own in the time he's been at Spurs, has good games, then bad games. A class midfielder is never dropped. Class midfielder is never dropped.
I agree.
Right?
The word class is not a good word for us. We don't have it.
It's really simple. James, 1 second. It's really simple question to ask yourself. If any of these players were class, why has no one come in to buy them in the summer?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
we always sell our class players.
Yeah.
We don't.
My question to like Billy would be: if Pape Sarr's class, fair enough, you're entitled to your own opinion. Where does Luka Modric, Camavinga, where are they in that class bracket? Because for him, his vocabulary may be class is what I would say is bang average. So it depends on what he means is in class. Because for me, if we're talking class, I'm talking Camavinga, Valverde. I'm talking players. Modric still, I still think he's got it.
Yeah.
People along this line.
Let's make a new level up, James.
That's what I'm saying. So what does he mean by class? That's my question to him. Because explain yourself before you start whipping out. I don't know.
James, the difference is if we're going to start throwing superlatives at every player, and that's what a lot of our fans do, we've got to be really careful here, right? If you throw superlatives at every player, you then can't turn around when you lose games and have all the stock excuses. They're young, right? They're growing as a team. It's a project. Now, hang on. You're calling all of these not you, but they're calling all of these footballers class. But then when we don't win games and we don't win trophies, where's your excuse? That's why, James, I don't put these people on that pedestal.
No, I agree.
You need somewhere to debate from.
Yeah. So even like what he's saying there, class, not world class, big difference. Okay, well, when I watch football, I watch it worldwide. Does he only watch fucking Tottenham? Because if he only watches Tottenham, then I agree. Pape Sarr's probably class. If I've got that small gap to back, like you've got to use your brain, not world class. For me, class is if you're a class player, you know what you're doing. You're a very good player. Even if you didn't put in the Valverdes and people like that, Mohamed Kudus, class player. If you want to put it in that bracket, not world class, class. He is light years ahead of Sarr.
I don't think there's actually more than probably, maybe even less. I don't think there's actually more than about 10 players in the world right now that are world class.
I agree.
There's 100% a level below that, which is class. I can't be going through this. But I'd put things like David Silva in there and all that those kind of players, right? I don't think he's world class. I don't think he's up there with Messi, but he's an absolute class player. You put him on the pitch and he's doing something to help your team, right?
Who's that, Lee?
David Silva or someone like that. But then world class that's when you're talking about Messi, Ronaldo, Soldado, any of them in that level, they're just heaps above everyone else, right? Absolutely above everyone else.
I also think that, I mean, again, maybe these guys are a lot younger than we think. And, I mean, class growing up was your Ronaldinho's, your Kakas. They were class. Like, you'd look at them and go, you're right, class.
Sure.
Now, let's be honest. There ain't much class. Well, there is. But in comparison to what we had the privilege of watching now to then, there's not much about.
We've been spoiled. We really have been spoiled.
Really, yeah. Really, yeah.
But I mean, look, listen. By the way, lots of people. I'm not saying Bentancur's not a good player, but by the way, this being injured for a whole year, this can't be the excuse forever. Bentancur came back in January. He's been back 10 months, 11 months. You can't hold it forever. Kevin De Bruyne was out for about 6-7 months. I was
just about to say that. How can we use this comparison? Kevin De Bruyne out for so long, comes back, first game, runs the game.
Right. Oh, that guy that's in his, he's 33 as well, and he's still pivotal to Manchester City's. Everyone goes, Man City can't do without him. They got to get him back, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what? He's like 33, 34 now. So,
Billy, what you mean to say is, you think Pape Sarr's got the potential to be class. That's not what you said. You said Pape is class. For me, Pape Sarr's a run-of-the-mill midfielder. If I'm not being horrible, he can still learn and grow, but sometimes he's brilliant, sometimes he's non-existent, other times he's okay. The top players, week in, week out, play really, really well. That's just why the big teams win things, right? Because their players aren't. you look at Man City over the years. How many of their players are inconsistent? They're not, are they? Their players aren't inconsistent. More often than not, Man City's players are quality. That's why they win things. So before we start throwing superlatives at people, we've really, really got to just relax a little bit. And Sarr was excellent last Sunday. Game before that, I remember, a couple of games before that, I remember going, sorry, was Sarr playing today?
I mean, and this may take a few shots here, but for me, people like Pape Sarr, Bissouma, Bentancur, I think that they are probably what I would like to say the level below Tottenham, playing week in, week out, and having 7 out of 10s every week. So what I mean by that is the moment they go up a level, their performances goes up and down. But say, for example, if you was to drop Bentancur out from our squad and go to someone like West Ham squad, I think you would see a 7 out of 10 most weeks. The moment you rely on him and he has to deliver, you get a good game, a bad game,
on him, right? And the reason I think you've been unfair on him is he has got a good proven record at Juve before he came to us. I know it's different leagues.
But that's why Roberto Soldado had a great season in the Spanish league. Does that mean that everyone's unfair on him, or do you judge what you see?
This is the point I was saying. No, but hold on. This is why I was saying to Savva earlier that he was class, but now he's had 2 or 3 years where he's been inconsistent. He's lost it.
I watched him at Juve. I don't think he was. Let's be fair. He lost his place at Juventus and he was let go for very cheap, right? Listen, by the way, I'm not saying he's not a good midfielder. For me, he is the level we buy. There is a reason why we don't run every game every week. There's a reason why sometimes he plays, sometimes Bissouma plays. If Bentancur or Bissouma were both that great, neither of them would be rotated, would they? Let's be honest. Neither of them would be rotated. They'd be the main man every week in midfield, every single week, and they're not. They're rotated.
Or they would be sold because they can't play the Ange system.
Yeah, but my big problem is I just don't think Ange is a good manager.
That's another subject, isn't it? Our best.
I agree. Look, here's my position on the team. A few of us have said this now for several months, right? So it's nothing new. When I look at our squad and our team, right, there's not one player, if I was young enough, that I would go and buy a Tottenham shirt and put their name on the back. Whereas in years gone by, right, if I had the inclination to do so, I would have got, I don't know, I would have got Dembele or Vertonghen on the back of the shirt or something like that, right? And Modric and Ginola and Klinsmann and stuff like that. Now, there's not one player I look at and think, yeah, I love that player. Like maybe Van der Ven, but it's only because I just like elements of how he plays, not everything.
Yeah, I agree. Like for me, Porro's attitude. But I love the passion from Porro, but he for me is an 8 out of 10, a 6 out of 10, an 8 out of 10, 6 out of 10. It's the same thing.
For me, our best player at the club at the moment is Romero.
Oh no! Not in any way.
You don't even want to be at Spurs. I don't know.
Not a chance.
You don't even want to be at.
Not in any.
Listen, whether you think his form has dipped this season and his head's in Madrid is another. That may well be correct. But as a footballer, he is the best player we've got. And if Real Madrid wouldn't be looking at him if he was a mug. Come on, guys.
But Ian, to be fair, Real Madrid were looking at him because of what he did in the World Cup for Argentina, not for what he's doing at Tottenham. I'm sorry, he would be one of the first ones out of the team for me. He's been slow. His build-up play's awful. He's not
interesting. I must tell you, Lee,
he's lost his spark. That spark that he had when he first came here, and the aggression, the fire. It's completely gone from him. It comes back every now and again in a little like wobbly moment, but other than that, it's like he's a different player.
When we signed him, Lee, the previous season in Serie A, he was superb, and his stats. I was talking to someone.
But why do we keep doing this? Why do we keep before they joined?
Were the best.
Before they joined.
Right, his stats were the best for any defender worldwide.
I'm not going to
I don't care
disagree with
about
you,
that.
Ian.
I care about now.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that because I
Last season,
was
not so good. This season,
100%. And listen, I don't need you to tell me about him before Tottenham because I know I was surprised more than anyone that even joined us. It's the most surprised that it's one of the most surprising transfers ever, right? I don't understand why he came to us in the first place. Based on his stats, based on what he did for Argentina, all that kind of stuff. I was like, why is he signing for us? Well done, but why is he signing for us? He could go anywhere he wants. And he came to us. That was a Paratici brown envelope, that tax dodging deal. Don't know what happened there.
If Romero's our best player, right? Why for the last 3 years is he another one that's good, bad, good, bad, good, bad?
I disagree, sir.
I shorten your sentence
you
so
can
much.
disagree all you want.
I disagree with you, mate. I think his problem has been that he loses it at key moments, and he gets he's not so much last season since. He hasn't been sent off since Chelsea, has he?
It's not about him being sent off. How many goals are down to him? When you watch Spurs play, him not tracking his man, not marking any basics, and we go, brilliant defender. You watch how many times he doesn't organise a defence. He doesn't talk. He doesn't organise. He's not brilliant in the air. Like what we like about him is he brings it out and every now and then has got like a nice 70-yard, 50, 60-yard pass.
He's a quality player, so he's quality.
Again, Ian, we're doing that thing. We're chucking superlatives. Quality player. Well,
I didn't say he's amazing. I said he's a quality player. He's a good player.
Let me finish, right? That's what I said. You said he's quality. We're chucking these superlatives. Quality players are 8, 9 out of 10, week in, week out. Virgil van Dijk is a quality player. And every week for Liverpool, that man is a mountain, right? That man is a mountain every week for Liverpool. That's quality. We put Romero in that bracket. Most weeks we're sitting on here going, God, who was marking for that goal? Well, that was Romero's bloke. Or look at Romero, he's lost his thing. I'm not blaming Romero solely, but in year one, the excuse for Romero's up and down form was, but he plays with Davis and Dyer, right? In year two, this is his third year with us, right? In year full. So in year one and year two, it was he plays with Davis and Dyer. Oh my God, wait till he's got better players around him. Then he plays last year around Mickey van der Ven, and we concede more goals than I think we've conceded in God knows how long, and mistakes galore. This year, the excuse is his head's in Madrid, as though Madrid put in an official bid that never came. There was no official bid, right? For me, he's a good centre-back, no more, no less. But quality players don't make the mistakes every week that this man makes. I'm sorry.
The only thing I would say
is, who do you guys think is our best player at the club at the moment?
Not Romero.
Just before we go off of that Romero thing, I think last season Romero had a very good season, and I thought he looked like he was one of our better players. He wasn't leading, but you could see he was a very, very good player. This season, it's like the first
61 goals last year.
No, I know, but
I had a great year when we conceded 61 goals.
This is what I was going to say though, because I don't believe he likes Ange and Ange's system. I mean, let's face it, he's a defensive defender. He likes to defend. He likes to do the dirty butt. He likes to put a boot in. In my opinion, Ange is asking him to play so high up that he's always out of position, even when we've got the ball, he's out of position. But for me, I don't believe he wants to be here anymore. I think the whole ending of last season was the turning point.
James, this high line argument, yeah. Look, I hate the high line as much as the next guy or girl, right? But I'm talking about basics of defending when we're not in a high line. I'm talking about basics when we've got 4 defenders in a box and you're wanting someone to organise it. You're wanting somebody to organise it, right? Look at the goals at Brighton. Romero was just nowhere to be seen marking anyone.
Right? Sav, Tom's post there.
Hang on, right? we've all got eyes. I'm sorry, we've all got eyes. We've all watched this season. Watch Newcastle. The Newcastle game is defending for both goals. Horrific.
Errors are not things like out of position. It's not an error. It's not counted as an error.
Well, so is the Arsenal goal not classed as an error? Because that's an error for me.
That was a foul, James.
No, I'm sorry.
Arsenal,
now.
Hang on, Arsenal. I thought he was poor. Do you know what it is? For a lot of games, he looks good. But I don't see other centre-backs making this number of bad decisions every game as Christian Romero. Lee said it. He's slow when he brings the ball out. He slows the game down far too much. He's lackadaisical. He wants a lot of time on the ball. Again, good player. Good quality for a quality centre-back. Sorry, you've got to marshal your back four better than he does. Sorry, not for me.
Answering your question, who I think who the best player at the club is. For me, the best player at the club is probably Pedro Porro. If we're talking general football.
Do you know what? I was going to say that as well, James.
If we
I know we say that he's a bit flaky at defending, but for his forward play, he's been pretty consistent there. But it's hard to pick. That's the problem, isn't it? It's really hard to pick.
This is where you have to blame Ange, because if Pedro Porro was in a Pochettino system, I think we see a levels above what we're seeing. So for me, if I'm going by footballer from what I see, the basics, I think Pedro Porro is hands down the best player or footballing player at the club.
Do we not think, guys, in a different system, a lot of these players would be playing better?
Absolutely. 100%.
For sure.
And much more consistently.
For sure. We all agree on that.
I also think there's a lot of players that play worse. I think you can do it both ways.
Well, you would have to find out, wouldn't you? This is why I said, I don't necessarily... this is why I said the whole Ange out thing. I don't necessarily think his system and the way he's managing is consistent enough for the Premier League, and therefore I'd look for someone else. If it was me, straight away, I'd be going, right, I've got 3 solid centre-backs here. Let's put them in a free... Put them 3 at the back.
Yeah.
Porro and Udogie as wing-backs, as they like to play, right? Because then you've got cover for them. They're not too high up. They're not inverted. And then just sort out the front.
Something like that.
Yeah,
like
something like that.
Just like that, right? Yeah, I agree completely. Something
and
like that.
I think you've got a team that could be 100% more consistent.
Yep.
And a team that could probably win like your Europa League or your FA Cup or something like that. I'm not saying that team will win the league because we're still levels below Liverpool, Man City, etc. But I think I don't think a lot of people would like the football, and I think too many people are wrapped up in this whole only Tottenham can only play fantastic attacking football. I mean, I'm still waiting to see a lot of that consistently this year. I think a lot of it's been absolutely dog shit. But I think from a position of a team that could get something, I think another manager could do something better with these players in a system that suited them. I don't think any of these guys are suited to Ange's system, and especially Solanke.
But we could
and
Maddison. Yeah.
Can we just
couldn't we say
just quickly? Sorry, James, 1 sec. I just want to address this. 3 centre backs, one gets injured, we're in trouble. Right, guys, we can't play. We've got 4 centre backs. I've got a crazy idea for you. A crazy idea. When the transfer window opens, we could buy more. I know, guys, calm down. I know it's crazy.
Sending Ashley Phillips out on loan,
right.
or maybe.
Right.
I'll tell you what. Do you know what? It just going not off topic, but on this topic, I'm really one player I'm excited to see is this Vuskovic, the central defender. I've seen him play 3 or 4 matches this season. I'll tell you what, he doesn't look his age. He's strong. He's quick. He scores goals.
Another Berg foul. Like looks incredible. Comes in and then he's just like, oh. Okay.
No, I've never thought Bergvall looked incredible. I think he looked good in certain games in lesser teams, but you can see that this Vuskovic has got something about him. He bosses people around. I think he could be the guy who could sort out the defence in a couple of years' time. Just hoping we keep hold of him.
So bring up that team again.
Like what we're saying though about people playing better in better teams, and I agree. But in my opinion, if you say you played a flat back 3 or whatever, I know this is going to get fucking torn to shreds. but Mickey van der Ven can't. He ain't a great defender. I'm sorry. I've seen him get turned time and time again. He's very good at making that last-ditch run. And the amount of times he slide tackles when he could just take the ball off of him and turn and run the other way is ridiculous.
No, I disagree. I think he's a good defender. I just think
he's not. Man for man, one-on-one
he's been our best
defending.
player in so many games, James.
No, but this is what I'm saying. For this manager, though, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
For this, when you have to drop 10, 15, 20 yards and you solely rely on your defensive ability, I think he will struggle.
Look, my problem with Savva. What I was going to say is one of the problems I've got when we say we can play three. What was the formation? 5-3-2 or 3-4-3?
3-4-3, 3-5-2, whatever. Yeah,
right. Is as individuals. So Van der Ven, Dragusin, Romero, judging on how they're playing now under Ange, I don't think it would make any difference. Because
I think if we did this, Maz, right now, first of all, big up to Bella for very generous the last couple of days giving out memberships. So Bella, thank you very much. One of very few Australians that like me. So big up, Bella. Thank you very much. Look, again, before I bring this up again, before everyone in the chat loses their mind, forget who's in what position other than the wing backs and the centre backs, right? We can argue the centre mids and we can argue the rest of it all day long. So please don't get caught up in this. I put this together before the season started, just to be clear, right? For me, yes, I see what James is saying. Is Van der Ven the most natural defender, right? Probably not, because a lot of it, this system is geared around his pace to get him out of trouble. What this system, though, allows to do, and hear me out, is it allows Dragusin to be the one that Dragusin sits and stays. He's the guy that gets his head on everything. He's the one organising. He's in the middle and he mops up, right? He's your authentic centre-back, right? Your old school centre-back. You've then got the pace of Mickey van der Ven that can cover everything left behind from Udogie. He'll go out there and mop all that up and he can bring the ball out. Romero can mop up in the space behind Porro and also he can bring the ball out as well. You've got two blokes sitting in front as well, allowing, like if it's Bentancur, Basuma, Sarr, whoever, you've got two blokes there sitting in front and they can drop in if Van der Ven and Romero go. You've got width from actual wide players, not Johnson and some players that don't actually want to beat a man. You've got width from two very good attacking wing backs. And the reason I like this, and listen, we can talk about getting Kulu in, and please bear in mind this was done before the season started. This formation, more than anything, allows Son to get in dangerous positions off the front man where he can score goals. And more importantly, you can't see it, but my cursor is flying over Maddison. It allows James Maddison to do what James Maddison was bought to do. Play make. Not playing a midfield two, not track back, his work rate is they allows him to actually turn on the half turn. And like you say, Ian, it's those reverse balls he plays. He's got a Doggy and Porro that he can find because they're out wide. He's got two forwards that he can play off. For me, that system there gets the best out of every one of those players on the pitch. If
Ange done that formation, right, and that system, he would invert the two wing backs so they're getting Son's and Solanke's way. He would make Maddison go and stand right next to Son so he can't move.
Sure.
Right, he'll get all those three centre backs to go up the halfway line so that one ball over the top, they're all like slow and running back apart from Van der Ven. It will look different on paper, but they'll end up playing exactly the same. Because I agree,
think that's the caveat. That's the caveat. That's the caveat, Maz. I'm saying, and by the way, sorry, comments like this are just so stupid. Billy, people didn't like, for those that didn't, we didn't like Conte's version. There are lots of managers that play three at the back, that play really good football. So it's not, I hate a formation per se. Billy, you're getting silly.
I said that. I wanted the whole, before Ange, during Ange, and now, I've wanted Ruben Amorim. Mate, watch what he does at United. When he brings his formation and the way he plays, they will go up a level 2, 3, 4 because he's good at what he does. And like you said, with that team only works with a different manager. I don't.
It's clear out, James. Those a lot of those players are just not good enough.
No, but in fairness, though, they like. Porro, if we're just going to go back for a pass, Porro and Udogie are great under Mauricio Pochettino. I think Vicario will do well. Romero, Van der Ven will do well. Someone like Basuma would probably play the Dembele role. Not the same, but there's that role where you're a number 8 all the time. You have Maddison in the actual role. Maddison plays the Ericsson role. I think you do get more out of this team with a different manager. And that is
the other point. The other plus that we would have from playing 3, and I hark back again. I'm not going to mention it too many more times. I asked David Pleat, "What do you think of Angie's system?" And he sort of shrugged and he said, 2 at the back. It leaves a lot for Romero and Van der Ven to do. They're covering the whole width of the pitch. That's why you're wide open. That's why we conceded the same number of goals last season as we did with Sanchez, Dyer and Longley and Davis at the back. It's no secret. We're too wide open. You can't expect 2 guys with a high line to cover the whole of the back.
No, I agree. Ian, can I just say though, that season that we conceded 61 goals with Longley, Sanchez and whoever at the back, that was because Conte left with 13 games to go and what's his name? Stellini and Mason took over and had an absolute disaster for 13 games.
They got 11 points from 10 games.
Up until that point, Conte was doing all right. We were 4th, right?
Yeah.
So, I think it's a bit unfair on them, to be honest.
Where is this ridiculous myth that Conte's football was defensive? I don't get it. I don't get
how putting 3 at the back is rather than 4 and having 2 wing backs is defensive. It's only defensive if you're playing a 5 across the back, but you're playing a 3.
The problem
teams that play a 3 at the back that are defensive and their players their wing backs have to sit back because they're getting pounded on. Yeah, that's defensive, but that's only in transition. When you're an attacking football team, it's more attacking because you've got more width on the wings as well.
Absolutely.
But when you have 2 good players and the rest are bang average at best, is in Harry Kane and Son and then no one else, you have to play to your strengths. And this is where, again, I criticise Ange because Conte said, he didn't say, but in my opinion, he probably went into that dressing room, done their bit and said, listen, these are all shit. Harry Kane's class. Son's very, very good. How do we win games? Right, Harry Kane, you're going to have to do all of this hard work, place on him behind. That's the only way we win those games. And that's what he did. And this is where Ange does need to be criticised because I don't feel like he's playing into any of our strengths at all. It's like if we press so high up the pitch, if we win that ball, very good chance of scoring. If we don't win that ball, they're on 4-on-2. So it's suicidal.
As I said, James, he doesn't he doesn't coach players. He doesn't coach a team. He has a system and he puts players into the position and tries to teach them that system. That doesn't play to their strengths. Plays to it's not what he does. It just simply isn't what he does.
It's why the home form and the away form are so wildly different. At home on our big pitch with the home fans roaring it through, you can play somewhat the gung-ho football. You're going to have that 15, 20-minute spell and blow teams away. And that's what we do. I don't think I keep hearing that we play this great football. I don't think we do. We have 10 to 15-minute spells where we are ruthless. I'll give him that. We do. We score early in the second half. Our tails go up. And for the next 15 minutes, bish, bash, bosh, done. Away from home, you don't get that because they've got the crowd, right? They're used to their pitch. They're set up. Palace being a great point. Palace, a small pitch, right? It's a small pitch at Selhurst Park, clogged up, 3 at the back for them. we didn't have any clue what to do because you know what? We couldn't break quickly in transition and scare the life out of them. And that for me is the difference between what Lee is saying in terms of coaching players versus just shoehorning them in to whatever your favoured tactics are. But listen, I can't sit here and lie, guys. I'm not going to lie. Conte isn't a manager for me. He isn't, right? Conte would be a manager for me at Spurs if we didn't have Daniel Levy as chairman. Right. But the moment we signed Conte in, I turned around and said, what's the point? This man wants top defenders and he wants top wing backs and he ain't getting any of it. Right. The problem with Ange for me is, and I want to move this to last night's game. Right. I want to move this to last night's game because Ange has come out again, making some really strange comments for me again, where rather than just say, you know what, that was not a good night at the office and we need to learn quick if we want to win this competition. You would think we were the best team. You would think that we didn't have 30 shots at our goal, right? It was mad. So this is what Ange said. A couple of things that Ange said. It blows my mind, guys. It blows my mind. So Ange just said, on the youngsters, Will took his goal well. I agree with that. He worked hard for the team. I agree. Obviously, he hasn't had a lot of experience. I agree with that. Right? It was just an over-enthusiastic challenge. I agree with that. Right? He would have learned a lot the same with Lucas. I'm sorry, Bergvall is just not ready. We'll talk about that in a minute. I thought Archie was great, and all three of them would have learned a lot tonight, right? Now, we'll come back to that in a second, guys. This is the bit that gets me. Like, it's just a lot of words to really fluff over what was an awful night at the office. And I'd respect him more if he came out and said, you know what? We didn't deserve anything, so we were awful. I'd respect that more. The first half wasn't great. I mean, that's an understatement. We didn't handle things well, particularly with the ball, just really wasteful and gave it away too many times. That allows them to get foothold in areas that they're good at. Blah, 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 blah. He said, you know, we always finish strongly, and I knew we would in the second half. Obviously, going to 10 men didn't help. I actually thought 10 men helped us massively. We were getting murdered with 11 men. But even with 10 men, I thought we probably played the best football. We did all game, right? Look, we did all game and got our second goal. So hang on. Probably played the best football. We did all game and got our second goal. Had some opportunities to get a third, but I thought we were looking the better side. So a disappointing outcome, right? I'm sorry. What game was that man watching from the sidelines? I don't get it. And Ian, I know we disagreed before the show about this.
What he's done, what he's done is that he has glossed over the first 65 minutes, pretty much, and he's talking about the last half an hour. Well, we were battered for 65 minutes till Lancashire got sent off. With 10 men, we looked much better. You know, he brought better players onto the pitch. He brought first teamers on, and all of a sudden, you know, we looked like a better team. We were holding the ball. We weren't giving the ball away. That was the difference.
There's a couple of things I'd like to say on the matter with the kids. Don't get me wrong, Bergvall was terrible.
Oh,
but where was our captain? This guy, I'm sorry, this guy is stealing a fucking living. And I've been saying it for the whole season. Towards the end of last season, Heung-min Son has been dreadful this season. Probably one of the worst players at the club, but no one will mention him. They'll pick on Gray, Bergvall, blah, blah, blah. I actually wasn't like too against the team that he put out yesterday. I thought, all right, we've won our first few. We've got a couple of really tough Prem games going on. Try a few kids. I'm one of the people that say, look, if you're about the youth, they've got to play somewhere. So give them a chance somewhere. But for me, in that situation, you need Son to step up and be a captain. You need Romero to step up and be a captain.
James, come on, man. We've been saying this all season, James. You know, it's not. We've been saying we've said countless times that Son is on a massive decline. He was on the decline last season.
He's not on the decline. He's just shit.
Well,
that's OTT.
I think that's OTT. Yeah. Right.
All right. Okay. He's a very good finisher. Anything but finishing, he's shit.
Well, he's set up goals. He's crossed it. He's
one cross. When was the last time he did that before then?
No, he's done it a few times this season.
Now,
he's never been a regular crosser. He's never been regular.
For me personally, if you're a big club, you sell Son and get somebody in. He's finished. He's over the hill. People keep saying put him up front. People keep saying put him up front. When Johnson and people like that are out wide and they're looking to cross the ball, he's fucking at the halfway line with his finger up his arse. He ain't got a clue.
I think that's.
I agree that Son has not been good this season, and I agree that he probably gets defended a lot more than others, but that's what you get when you've got a player that's been so good for so many years. People are going to hold on to the fact that he's been excellent, right?
But that's isn't that not an excuse?
It is an excuse, right? But James, I was saying that I've been saying for the last bloody 3 years, I'm sort of sick to death of saying it. We should have had a succession plan for Kane. We didn't. We should have had, and I was saying 3 years ago, where's our succession plan for Son? He's getting old. He's getting old. He's not going to be the same player as what he is. And he's just got old. And he'll
be here soon.
You're right. Sorry?
He's cooking in the J League, isn't he?
Well, yeah.
He'll be here soon. Just got to sort out the name on the back of the shirt, so we'll be fine.
But you're right.
I think a lot of fans will pick on the kids. They will pick on the kids. And like, if we look at this season so far, if you look at the amount of stick that Johnson's got, for me, Johnson's been levels above Son this season. Personally,
I hate to say this, but you're right.
It is. But people won't admit that.
People hate talking about.
No, but he has been. When you compare Son this season and Brennan Johnson just this season, Johnson's been by far the better player.
In what way?
He has been over 6 games.
Every way.
Been.
Better in what way?
No, but in every way.
How many players has Johnson beat, like run past?
All right, well, I'll put that one in my trophy cabinet.
Right, how many wicked crosses has Johnson done? Like wicked, crosses. I'm being serious.
I can't remember the goals off the top of my head, but we didn't.
Right, there we go. It's rubbish.
Well, he did it the last game we played for Dominic Solanke, or was that Porro? Was that Johnson?
I don't think that.
Johnson was involved in the move. He played Kulu, and Kulu played.
Just tapping a ball.
But my point is, diverted a bit, is a lot of people are going to bash the kids now, when really what they should be saying is, okay, they shouldn't have been on the pitch in the first place. That's a different conversation. Where were the likes of Son, Romero, players that are meant to guide you through that game and teach them, take them under their wing and say, this is how we play? No, what we do is we'll bash the kids, and these fucking people like that are stealing a living and getting away with it.
No, I agree. I agree with you, James, but that doesn't mean I agree that Son's not been good, right? But unfortunately for us, he's the best finisher at the club.
I never said any other, but that's a different conversation. I still think Son's probably our best forward at the club if you base it. But
James, what do you call bashing the kids then?
Well, no, but the first thing is, I mean, the amount of times you mentioned Gray in our chat, Dan, not to dig you out, when Son did exactly the same and lost the ball more than enough times, never once defended, but yet it was always Gray.
Right,
well, hold on.
Give you the answers.
Son is captain. Son should go, hold on, he's struggling here. Let me drop back and help him a little bit. Help him along this line.
The manager should be telling him to do it as well. Now, yesterday, we let it rip on everybody, yeah? But if you want to pick it out yesterday as well, Porro had a complete shitter of a game.
Agree.
Bergville got absolutely destroyed and should have been off on 20 minutes. Am I now bashing one of the kids? Gray looked well out of his depth, not by his fault. He's in the wrong position and he had 3 players on him at times. Manager should be sorting that out. Is that bashing the kids or picking on reality? And then Lancashire, he shouldn't have got sent off, but it was frustration. He got a goal, well done, but he got lack of service, yeah? And as everyone's done about Gray is just say that he's not going to get the game time he needs and he's playing in the wrong positions. That's not starting and grilling on him. Son is not done. He's still... Who would you rather have in front of goal? Son or Johnson?
But why am I picking between shit and shit?
I didn't ask you that. I didn't ask you that. I asked you Son or Johnson. Black or white?
Son. But that's irrelevant because I don't want any of them then.
Can I ask a question? Right. Again, I think going back to what I said earlier about the choice of words that we use are always their quality or their shit. I feel like there's somewhere to live in between. Son for me, right? Sonny for me he is not as good as he was because he's getting older. I'm not knocking him. This is a natural thing. Now, there are certain players for me that as they get older, get better because their game doesn't rely on one thing.
Speed.
Let's have a look at, let's use some examples. I know I'm going to use one that I know Danny's going to like. I know Danny's going to like this. If we take two strikers, right? Let's take a Michael Owen. Michael Owen's game was never about linking the ball, never about holding the ball. Michael Owen's game was about being on the last shoulder, spinning in behind, finishing, right? That's what he did his whole career. A Teddy Sheringham, a Wayne Rooney, these players, as they got older, they didn't rely on pace. They never had it. Harry Kane, yeah. But these players never relied on it. Kane's only 31, by the way, right? These players never relied on pace. These players up there and down there with their feet was superb. The problem you've got with Sonny is Sonny's game has always been about, can he beat a man time after time after time, cut in, score those goals? Now, listen, he's still going to grab goals. He is. He's going to grab goals. I don't think he's going to grab anywhere near as many as he's used to. I think he's now turned into a moments player. So against Aston Villa, let's be honest, he did the square root of nothing, then whipped him for the goal, right? Now, that's fine, but we have to accept that that's going to happen more and more and more because his game, which was always about his pace and not just people confuse, sorry if I'm rambling, people confuse pace, outright pace, for pace with the ball. When you are running at pace with the ball, as you get older, it's very difficult to do. And Sonny is showing that more times now than often when he gets the ball, he'll cut inside rather than beat his man like he used to for fun. That's age. He's not a shit player. But again, I question, does this formation get the best out of Son at his age with his qualities? I don't think he's shit. Now, James, I'm going to agree with you on something. Do I think he's a good captain? No. I don't think he's a good captain. I think he's been a wonderful player. I think he's a wonderful person to have around the dressing room for feel-good factor, for fist pumps and all that. But is he a captain? I don't think he's a captain in the traditional sense. So for me, good player. He's been a bloody good player, but now, unfortunately, is doing that. But you're right, James. If we were a top club, if we were a big club, in this window, we would have gone, Matoma, let's go and get him.
Well, here's a thought. Here's a thought.
Succession plan.
Here's a thought, Savva, right? I think that, and this piggybacks off Lee's statement earlier, because Ange has a system and he puts players within that system, what that's not allowing Son to do is, as his age and his game's changing, is to mould himself into a forward. Right, yes. A bit like what Ronaldo did when his pace left him, and he became a bit like what Bale did, right? And that, I think, is a big factor on why we're not seeing the best of Son, because he's playing in a system that doesn't allow him to play the game that he should be playing at his age, with a lack of.
I couldn't disagree anymore. I really couldn't disagree anymore.
He can't adapt, can he? Yeah. Now, I've never called Son world class, just a world class finisher, but he's been a good player. Never been able to cross the ball regular. His passing's never been good regular, but one of the best finishers on the planet, and still probably one of the best finishers on the planet.
In his day, elite finishing.
And when it comes down to it, you look at someone like Son, a very good player, but now you look at someone like Salah, who's lost his pace a little bit, same as Son, but has adapted his game. That's the difference between world class and a very good player as well. But the way we're playing, Son still needs to rely on his speed, the position he's playing in. And if we was playing him in the middle forward, he wouldn't need that speed as much. But because he relies on it.
James, he's not slow. I can't tell you.
I agree.
When Van der Ven went on that 60-yard run, Mickey was flying and Son kept up with him. He's not slow.
Mickey had the ball.
Fine, no, but
Mickey's running with a ball and Son's keeping up without a ball.
Son is still quick. No two ways about it. But he has lost pace.
Running quick is different to agility quick as well. Messi
can't do it for 90 minutes. That's the difference. He could do it for 90 minutes before, but now he can't, especially with the injuries and stuff. It's bursts in bursts.
Moments.
The thing for me as well, when you're talking about...
Sorry, James, really quickly. Again, I don't think this guy's listened to what I said. Yeah. Last year, Sonny played quite a lot through the middle, right? He played quite a lot through the middle, scoring goals. This year, he's only out on the left-hand side. They're two very different positions. No one's saying Sonny isn't. This is, again, I always say this magic microphone where you say something, but something different comes out at the other end. No one's saying he's not good. I tried to be diplomatic in saying really good player, but that he's just getting a bit older. And let's be fair, guys. When you watch Tottenham now, does anyone think, oh, that's the danger man? Or be honest. Does anyone watch him and go, oh, that was... It's moments, right? It's moments. Yeah. It's never 90 minutes.
But this is where I say there's two things there. Son playing as a striker, in my personal opinion, I don't think he has the footballing brain to play as a striker. That's just my personal opinion.
What about James?
I still don't think he's not. We don't know.
Off Solanke.
Obviously, we don't know until we see it. So
that's old school, and that's the way it
works. For me personally, Sonny
Pesky
doesn't have that natural instinct of a striker. He doesn't know where to be. He doesn't know those things where, say, for example, we've even seen it with Solanke this season. The little toe pokes in and out. He's kind of like where he should be. You don't see that from Son. So whether he's in 2 or 1, that I can't judge because I haven't seen it. But for me, if we're judging, I'm talking, when I say finished, Son's finished, I'm talking if Son is the person that we're going to have in the team, then Tottenham are finished also. Because I don't think Son gets into probably any other of the top 8 teams in the Prem. Maybe. I think there's a good, in the top 8 of the Prem teams.
Well, I'll tell you what, we can. I'll tell you what.
Let's do it. I'll be really interested.
That's OTC.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go through it and see.
Hang on.
I'll back, barring Nottingham Forest. But other than that, I'll back it. Who?
He could give Villa a run.
No chance. You know what? I really like that guy that's sort of coming off of the left. Is it Rogers? That's kind of playing like attacking left mid player.
He's good. He's a good
player.
If you want to be serious, Arsenal would love him in there for the goals he can score. They'd probably
get
him up front.
I was thinking that. Arsenal don't have
him up front all day.
I even think Chelsea would take him too.
Over Trossard. You take Son over Trossard.
Chelsea.
You didn't say nothing about a winger and position. You said he couldn't get into there. He would get into Arsenal.
Fucking hell, I'm not going to take fucking... No, right, that's it. Take out Saliba, play Son centre-back. Come on.
There you go, yeah. So, Arsenal would have him as a forward.
He would do well for
Chelsea. Might be better at the moment.
He would do well for Chelsea, for sure.
I think it all depends.
Aston Villa would stand a chance of taking him as a striker as well. So would Chelsea.
Yeah, but in my opinion... Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Villa.
Arsenal will take him all day long.
Brighton, hang on. Chelsea.
It's you've got to take the reason these conversations are really difficult to have is Son is a certain type of player. You have to look at those other teams at the way they play and say, we're not talking about Son of 3 or 4 years ago, right? We're not talking about purely can he finish. It's in those setups, does he work? Right? Not just, he clearly gets in there. Does he work? Like people would say at Man City, he gets in above Doku on the left or whoever. But the way Man City play, Man City wouldn't just be sliding him in for goals. You've got to link up. You've got to be able to hold on to the ball. You've got to be able to ride tackles and hold off challenges. So again, would he get in? I'm just using them as an example, by the way, right? Everyone plays a different style of football. Like at Brighton, you don't get in at Brighton because Matoma plays there. Now, I'm talking about now at this age.
Yeah, Savva, I think though that he's being surrounded by very good players, which those teams have, better players than what we have, will also elevate him as well, right?
No, I think he plays the last 30 minutes and he becomes a very good super sub.
Even at this age, because I think that Son does put himself into his good. He puts himself into good positions, and those teams would create a shitload of chances for him. And with his finishing, right, quality chances as well, because I think our chances are quite low quality in comparison to those teams, right? He would certainly score more goals than what he would at Spurs. Let's put it that way.
But it depends how that team plays. It depends how they play, Maz. If you've got teams that keep the ball, keep hold of it, Son's game isn't that. He's not a link-up guy. You know what I mean? But again, that's why it's really difficult to say where he gets in and doesn't.
As a striker, he fits in fine at Arsenal style. As a striker, he fits in fine for Arsenal, Chelsea. And
he doesn't get in at Chelsea. Who's he getting in above at Chelsea? Yeah. Who's he getting in above at Chelsea?
And Kunku all day long.
Hang on, all day long.
Jackson, I don't think he's been special.
On the left wing, right now, on the left wing, are you going to pick Pedro Neto or Son? Be on.
Or Kunku.
Oh, Neto all day long.
Kunku's not been playing in their league team, has he? I'm going from a league perspective. Are you really going to pick Son over Neto for what Chelsea? Hang on, for what Chelsea do, Dan? This is the thing. Chelsea.
No, I'd have him as a striker.
Yeah, but you hang on.
But you're trying to shoehorn players into different positions just to fit.
He's done pretty fine last season.
Let me finish, right? But this is the thing. On one hand, we say he can't play up front for Tottenham because he can't hold the ball up. He can't do this. He can't do that. Then on the next hand, we're saying, well, he's going to go into Chelsea and play up top on his own. Nicholas Jackson, I'm not saying he's anywhere near Son's quality from down the years. But what Nicholas Jackson will give them is endless running, endless pressing, right? Work rate. Sonny now is 33. There's a huge difference. There is more. This is where when we just use goals and assists, there's more to being a centre forward than just putting the ball in the net.
He's lost a lot of stamina.
He has, but Nicholas Jackson.
How many more things is he going to lose when give him opportunities for? I saw a stat last week. They compared him to Johnson and Solanke. And Solanke and Johnson run so much more. Why Son just can't do it? And if we're basing it on player for player and left wing where he's been his whole career, not only does he not get in those top 8, he don't get in front of West Ham. He don't get in front of Brentford with Mbeumo. He don't get in front of Newcastle with Gordon. How many more? I've just listed 11 teams there. Like, how many more are we going to go? Don't get me wrong. Is he Tottenham's level? If you want to put him at that level, me personally, with the wingers I've seen over the period, he should be nowhere near this club. He should be a last 30 minutes at best.
I'll tell you what, I'm 100% sure now that James has got Son on the back of that shirt. 100%. Oh, no.
Richarlison.
Just get a pigeon.
I agree with what you're saying, James.
By saying all those 8, but I do think when I do think that when our fans are talking about Son, I do think that most of us are still talking as though this is the Son of 4 years ago. I don't think we're not thinking for practicality. Like this comment here was going, oh, what are Doku's and Grealish's numbers, right? Versus Son. If you actually watch the way that Man City play, what does Jack Grealish do for Man City that Son can't? Anybody? What does he do that Son doesn't?
He carries the ball.
Carries the ball. Fouls as well.
Draws the fouls. Links in, cuts inside, holds
on the football,
controls. No.
He's going to say it and all then, wouldn't he? Controls.
Hang on. Let me land. Right, let me land. This is the thing. If we're purely going to look at numbers, right? That's like if we're going to go by this, right? That's like if I ask the question right now, who you all having up front, Solanke or Chris Wood? You're all going to say Solanke, I'm guessing, right?
No.
Like Chris Wood's having the purple patch at the moment.
Solanke.
Hang on, no.
Solanke's different class. Sorry.
Hang on here. It's really hard getting a point out, right? But Solanke hasn't scored as many as Chris Wood, right? That's why these sort of comments, it's not chalk, it's chalk and cheese. You can't just say, what are their numbers? Their job, Doku and Grealish's job, isn't to score the number that Son does, because they've got Kevin De Bruyne in the team. They've got a bloke up top who scores 50 goals a season, right? So again, when our fans say things like this, I don't think Pep would take Son at this age, because I don't think he can do the things that Grealish and Doku do. Take the ball, carry it, hold on to it.
I do agree with that.
Peter, man, there's so many different facets to football that fans just go, oh, but look at the numbers. It's mind-numbingly silly, right? And Ian, what you just said is mind-numbingly silly.
Because he just stuck up for Richarlison.
Solanke versus Chris Wood, in that you said he's miles better. At what?
As an all-round footballer, I think he's got more to his game than Chris Wood.
Sure. Who's had a better career? Just asking for a friend.
Solanke's had one season. In that season that Liverpool won the league, he scored a goal in 20 games.
Who's had a better career to date?
Just asking. Chris Wood
Solanke got a winning the league, the Premier League medal.
Yeah.
I'll take it all back. We're signing top of the class. He's a Premier League winner.
He played more than 23 games for Liverpool, and he scored a goal.
Who's Chris Wood played for? Come on, I mean, who's he played for?
He's played for Nottingham Forest, Newcastle, Burnley. But his goal record compared to Solanke, I'm just saying, right? But my point was, this is why if we're purely going to look at numbers, we could do that all day long. If we're going to look at numbers, Solanke's got 4 goals. Loads of strikers have got loads more. Are we saying that all of them get in above? Do you know what I mean? I think we've got to be, I think we've just got to be a bit more sensible with it. Son is older now.
We've got to be more ruthless.
At the end of his career. I think he does need to be moved on at the end of the season.
We are too nice at Spurs, and I've said it enough times. I've been agreeing that Son is not the player he was, and again, I've never called him world class. I still think there's a space for him in that team. He's perfect to bring on after 20 minutes when people are knackered.
Agree.
He hasn't got the 90 minutes anymore, but I would still say he's still one of the best finishers on this planet. And when it comes down to it, if I put him as a striker, I still say he gets in Arsenal's team because I think he'd get enough quality. No, he wouldn't get in Man City's team, but stick him up front in Man City, you'll still see 15, 20 goals off him for the assists he would get.
But that's not how Arsenal play. That's not how Arsenal
He's not finished. He's not a finished player.
Couldn't have Son
would we put
running
Chris
around.
Wood then? Could we put Chris Wood in City's team? Or is he going to score 10, 15 goals a season in City's team?
Fair point. I think you put a half-decent striker there, not even a quality one. He's going to get 15, 20 sort of thing. You got a fair point.
I fancy myself in City's team, to be honest.
I'll back you, Maz.
Listen, just to end the discussion on Son, I'll ask you a question. I'll ask you all a question.
This conversation was about yesterday's game and Angie's comments, and it's turned into half an hour of Son.
Sorry.
Let me cut it off here with the Son
so
questions,
delusional.
right?
It's like happy clapping 1 minute, going in on Son the next minute. You know what I mean?
Question for all of you. What has Son lost that was more important to him than anything else in the last couple of seasons?
Harry Kane.
There you go.
Sure.
That's what I said yesterday.
You've got someone like Harry Kane who drops. Those two were on the same level, right? They were linked by mine. They're like Shearer and Sutton. They were like,
this is what we were saying. All the other doubles,
wasn't it? You don't replace him, Virginie. You don't replace him.
Yes.
Do you know what? That might actually be true. You don't replace another striker that can drop deep and utilise Sonny's pace in behind the defenders, and the way that Harry Kane can put a ball on a sixpence. That's what he's lost. He's completely lost the feed. Feed Son scores. Stop feeding him. Feed the pony. Feed the pony.
But Lee, doesn't that show you, to round off this whole thing, doesn't that show you though, if you lose a player and suddenly you look nowhere near as good as you were, I'm just chucking it in the air. Doesn't that show you then that because Kane without Son is still breathtaking, right?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Kane without Son can still do it all, right? Yeah. Son without Kane listen, I'm not knocking it. Again, I think it's age. I think this is purely down to age. And big clubs, as I've said for years, a big club would have looked at Son a couple of years ago and gone, all right, he's probably got 2 years left. What's our succession plan? And by succession plan, I don't mean buying an 18-year-old from Korea. What's your succession plan? Where's your Mbuemo? Where's your Matoma? Where's your pick a winger? Where's your Semenyo?
Well, I'd have Eze.
Well, what about Timo Werner? Does he not fit?
Fit what?
Champions League winner. No?
The sad thing is, Timo Werner is actually better now at taking on his man and getting past him than Son.
Yeah,
he's actually better at it. He actually does it. Son fails quite epically in that now.
It's just everything else, isn't it, with Timo?
Ruthless club would have looked at Son, seen he's on the decline, even though he can still score goals. He's still a good player. They would have sold him.
We've not allowed him to
because they would have made money on him, and that is what big clubs do. Right, you're not getting our first team now. We still get 50 mil.
Dan, I do think that we've not, because of Ange, he's not allowed Son to change his game in it. I'm not. Look,
I agree.
The thing is, look, I'm not Mystic Meg, right? I don't know if it happened whether he would adapt, right? But I don't think we've allowed him to, adapt, play, being a front two or being a different system where he can play up top, where he doesn't need to hold up the ball and he can still have elements of his game that he can rely on. But he's 33 years old. He shouldn't really be the player that we're relying on, and I feel that we are still relying on him.
But Maz, isn't this? I mean, I don't know if Dan was in the chat or that at the beginning of the show, but isn't this what we said about Hugo Lloris? They turn our heroes, if you like, into villains because they just hold them and hold them and hold them and hold them.
Yeah, he should have been gone 3 years earlier.
Well, like we said earlier about my son not buying a shirt, a name on the back of his shirt. His shirt is blank. 2-3 years ago, it was Son or Kane, like Son. And I agreed with him. It's like, yeah, unbelievable. It's past that. From what they've done for me, they've took Son up here and it's been slowly decline. Now he's like big drop. And it's like, okay, you're kind of ruining it for me. Let him go. If it was City, they Mahrez, good. Drop towards, okay, off you go. In comes Doku. That's how a big club runs. What we do is we keep. Deadwood, we'll keep him a bit longer. All right, now you're worth nothing. You can go for free.
No, I agree with what you're saying. You're 100% right on what you're saying. I can't argue that. I just think that, I mean, I can't preach at nobody for a way with words because mine is probably one of the worst on here. But turning around and saying he's finished as a player is well OTT.
I think Tottenham are finished. So he suits Tottenham first. I think Tottenham are finished. That's the only reason.
Tottenham haven't even started, so how can they be finished?
Exactly. You always get one that falls over the start line.
We haven't even started.
Can we move away from Son and get back to what the topic was half an hour ago? But so the topic started with Ange's comments, right? For me, I just feel like it paints this story that isn't true about the game. For me, what I saw, you guys can tell me if you differ. For what I saw was a team that absolutely bullied us from pillar to post for the entire game. Then what happened is they started taking off their better players. They took off Osserman. They lost Icardi through injury. They started taking off their better players like Dries Mertens. They were happy with what they had. Spurs then brought on some better players when we went down to 10 men, had a couple of counter-attacks and went, oh, we played better. I don't think we played better at all. Galatasaray were very, very comfortable. And for me, that game should have been 10-2 in the end.
People said we played better. If people said we had a better,
Ange's saying like, it didn't help when we went down to 10 men. I think that helped Ange. I think that helped Ange with 11 men.
I said yesterday, wasn't it? We was better with 10 men.
We were better with 10 men, but that's a forced change. When we had 11 men, which isn't a forced change because you start with 11, I thought we looked absolutely woeful. His tactics were just shambolic. And obviously, I spoke to Dan and Ian at length about this yesterday. What do you guys make of yesterday?
Well, first off, the same. Sorry, go on. Say first off, Ange since he's been here is single-handedly making B&Q's profits go through the roof with the amount of spades that he's buying, digging these holes that he's putting himself in. And secondly, I've been harping on about this. People are going to get bored of me saying this week in, week out. You can tell how the game is going to go by the first 10 minutes, dependent on what the other team turns up. Under a high press, we look absolutely dreadful. We don't know what to do with it. We can't keep the ball. We make mistakes, and they were all over us. As soon as they dropped off and said, we don't need to do this anymore, it's 3-1, took some players off and gave us a little bit more room, and then allowed us to play on the counter, and then we got another goal back, and that was about it. But for the rest of the match, they were just they knew how to press us, and we couldn't handle it. We just all over us.
To me, it proved again that Ange is he just doesn't adapt when he should. It looks like he can do the odd thing here and there, but there's been more regular times that he doesn't do it than he does. I was impressed with Villa and City. He did adapt with that in certain ways. He did get us to drop off more.
No.
But in a game like this,
he didn't adapt. He played his system, and Villa did not high press us. They sat in the middle of the park and they let us play our game. And when we play
sat
our
back
game
against Villa as well, we played deeper.
No, we didn't. We were.
Yes, we did.
We weren't high press. The high press is what kills us.
How many of the goals were on counter attack against Villa and City?
Yeah, but that's my point. It wasn't about counter attacking. It's about when they don't high press us and they allow us to pass the ball around, then we can create chances and we can score goals. When
Two of the goals with Villa, we were sat deep and counter-attacked. And this is why people said we should counter-attack, sit deeper, because we play better. So obviously he has told them to say that, and he has adapted a bit. And then when it comes up a game like this and we're away, he seems like he hasn't got a clue. And then when you got two strikers up there, he's still telling us to push up there. This is why this man will not win me over.
We didn't win yesterday because they high-pressed us. That's as simple as that. We do not have the people, we don't have the technically skilled players that can play under high pressure. We've got Basuma that just sits on the ball and gets it taken off of him, even though he was sort of one of the better players yesterday, once they took players off, etc., etc. But you see it, the amount of times that they dilly-dally on the ball and they get it off, people take it off of us and stuff like that, put us into positions where we make mistakes. That's the issue. We don't have the technically enough gifted players to take that. City do, we don't.
Sorry, just quickly, James. I'll let you go back at him in a second. Sorry. Destiny 5. Look, if we know teams are going to struggle away in Turkey, don't you adapt your tactics to cope with that? You can't turn around and say, oh, we know what they're like, but we're going to play with 2 attacking midfielders, 1 holding midfielder, and we're going to play a highish line. If you know Destiny 5, that they are a tough place to go, they're going to fight for every ball, surely then, like Dan just said, in those games against City and Villa, we put 2 midfielders on the pitch instead of 1. And then he reverts back away from home to 2 attacking midfielders and 1 holding player. And even when he saw it wasn't working, he didn't change it. And I don't want to hear all this nonsense about, oh, it was a free hit. Again, it's the first game we've come up against a good team in Europe. And he failed miserably. Yeah? He can get away with it against Ferencvaros, against Karabakh, against Alkmaar. These teams aren't good. We play one. By the way, as I said to Ian earlier, me and Ian were arguing about this earlier. This is a Galatasaray team that had 3 37-year-olds in it, right? Had a bloke they just bought from Norwich in midfield alongside Lucas Torreira, who I'm told is an Arsenal reject. Bacardi's 32 and can't run, right? Davinson Sanchez at centre-back, who I'm told, oh, great, we got rid of the Deadwood. And then we're going, oh, but we couldn't beat them because we didn't play our best 11. We had 8 senior players out on that pitch that are all full internationals. And if I'd said to you at the beginning of the game, who you picking, Torreira or Basuma? Everyone's going to say Torreira. Who you Basuma? Who you picking? Sarah or Madison. Oh, I'm picking Madison. Who are you picking? Dragoshin or Sanchez? Oh, Dragoshin. When we lose, it's but it's not our best 11. This isn't a vintage Galatasaray team by any stretch of the imagination.
Very experienced and knowledgeable, but
it's madness. Absolutely.
And this
madness.
is what I keep saying with Ange, where he don't adapt. I mean, yesterday I thought the subs he made brilliant, but then he changed no bloody tactics with it, so it makes it irrelevant.
That's spot on, Dan.
I agree, Dan. I think he struggled in nearly all the Europa League games, if we're going to be honest. I think he struggled at Ferencváros. We weren't good. We weren't good against Alkmaar and needed a penalty, right? We were awful yesterday. But the problem is, we're going to go through. I'm not worried that, oh my God, we lost the game. Are we going to qualify? We will qualify. But again, it's away from home, a decent team. His tactics were dreadful. And why did he have to make so many changes? Why? Surely that's the one game in Europe where you don't.
That's the problem. That's the problem, Sav. When you look at the results we're getting away from home, let's put performances to one side. Let's just talk about results. Let's talk about Premier League. You've got that with your first team, and we're not doing great away from home. You cannot expect to go somewhere like Galatasaray and make 7 changes. So you're disrupting cohesion, you're disrupting partnerships. And to play, I thought we looked much, much better with 2 holding midfield players against City and Villa.
Yeah.
Much better.
Yeah.
Close down the gaps. It just helped that the whole movement of the team was more fluid. Everything was better. To go into that atmosphere, I would have started with Vicario, because I think he is obviously far better than Forster, and he would have been a much more calming influence on what is a rookie back four. It's not a regular back four.
Three of that back four ended the game against City and Villa. No one came on it and said a rookie back four. We praised them. This is what I mean when I say we're disingenuous. When we get to the end of those games, it's how good were Dragoshin and Davis in that last half an hour coping, right? But you know what? Against Villa for the last half an hour and against City for the last half an hour, he didn't ask Dragoshin and Davis to play high. He had them as conventional back four. He goes away to Turkey, plays them high when you've got Osimhen in behind. Now, the first 2 times he saw Osimhen getting behind, as a manager, don't you go, this ain't working? No, 3 times he gets behind, 4 times he gets behind, 5 times, 6 doesn't change anything.
We never change, mate.
People say, we knew we were going to lose there anyway. That's not a reason for conceding 30 shots on our goal. Where's our standards?
We've got to be careful. We've got to be careful when we say about the 2 holding midfielders, because it's not the first time he's played 2 holding midfielders and it hasn't worked, Ian. Right? How many games has he played Basuma and Sarr together, and it's not worked? Right? He's played Basuma and Betancourt together in the past. It's not worked.
He played a lower block, lower line against City and Villa. We weren't as far up, and it does make a difference. Dragoshin is not suited to that very high line. We all know that. And
you're right. But I'm just saying,
the high line only works with a fully fit and on form Van der Ven.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
We know that.
That's not my point.
I've been saying this for a year.
All I'm saying, all I'm saying is that we just got to be careful as thinking that just having 2 defensive midfielders solves all the problems, because I think it's a little bit more than that. And Savva touched on it with effectively when he stops them doing Ange ball, when he stops Adoji and Porro being up top with Solanke. Right, and the defenders being on the halfway line, and they actually play like a proper back four that's 5-10 yards deeper and more disciplined in their positioning as a defensive unit, we do look better as that when he stops playing handball, right? But he defaults back to his system every single time, and as Dan said as well, he'll make changes in the team and not adjust the tactics, and then he just like.
Correct.
You know, it's complete. I don't think any of us have got the magical answer. He just does all these weird things all at the wrong time.
Let me ask you a question.
No, it's no surprise, is it, guys? No surprise. You've got no cover. Basuma was overrun completely. So you got Dragusin, who's not suited to the high line. He's not as good as Romero. Secondly, Davis obviously is nowhere near as good as Van der Ven and doesn't have his pace. Fine, they had a couple of decent games last week, and everybody said they did well. But Romero and Van der Ven are much better. So you're missing your first choice back four, two centre backs. Your Basuma's overrun, so the two guys are completely left wide open. The two centre backs have no cover. He's playing Maddison and Bergvall, who do the same job in midfield. Maddison, unfortunately shrinks in those sort of atmospheres. Bergvall, we saw both mentally, physically, is just not ready at this level. So all of a sudden, you've got Sonny and Johnson, who are barely dropping. So there's no cover for Porro and Gray. And all of a sudden, the whole thing is, we got what we got. They just
the most annoying thing for me now with Ange, as far as I'm concerned, he has proved that he can adapt in a game, in the middle of a game, make the right subs, and also know when to press back, when to lay back. And then when it comes at other times, majority of times, he does nothing. If he actually just stuck to his way, we'd all be sitting here saying it, but I don't think I'd be as frustrated as I am now, because he has actually shown that he can, but he don't.
Dan, we said it yesterday. We said it yesterday. If anyone watches the game back, not that you would, in the first 30 seconds of the game, the Galatasaray centre back pinged the ball over the top, right, looking for Osserman and Icardi, and they nearly got in. And I said on my watch along, he's got it. That the manager's got it. All day, all they did all day, doubled up on Gray because they knew he's a weak link, right? They put two men up against our centre halves that they knew they could slip in because they know that Davis and Dragusin have got no pace, and then you've got a manager that doesn't adapt to anything. They're the sort of games for me where you see how good is a manager. And let me just be clear: it's not that we lost to Galatasaray. It's that we went there and we conceded 28, depending on which app you read, 28 to 30 shots on our goal. And let's be brutally honest, that game should have been, it should have been 4 or 5 at half time. And then
easily,
the first 5 minutes of the second half was like shooting practice. Like it was absolutely dreadful. And then for the manager to say the things he says, I don't know.
What did he actually say? Because I haven't seen it.
He said that we were a better team. He said that we were a better team, basically, after we went to 10 men. And he said that Archie Gray was great. He said that, he said that we started playing our football. And it's just a lot of, I want him to come out and say, we weren't good. I got it wrong. And I respect him as a manager if he does that. I got it wrong. I'm not going to make that mistake again. But he blows smoke up the arse. And then you've got all these channels and fans going, yeah, but it was we still won our first 3. That was the test. Galatasaray is the toughest game out of the 8 we've got. Do we agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Savva, I think it's a bit worse than what you've even said. I think, you shouldn't be, right? I'm going to go back to the old man's now. I've had enough of being positive. The guy's absolutely delusional. This is the squad and the team he's left us with, right? He's bought a £40 million midfielder to play him in defence. Right,
Yes.
He spent all of the pre-season in the friendlies playing Gray as bloody centre back with Skip. Right, you know he sent out Phillips on bloody loan. Right, when we've got Davies, who's, let's face it, is well past it. Yeah, fine, he's a little bit of a steady Eddie, but he ain't a quality defender. Right, that's going to play against players like Osherman, and he's playing him at centre back with Dragerson. He can't play high up, and he proved that in the Euros. Right, we've got, he's got a defender that isn't even in the squad to cover the right back position, should we need him, or even the left back position. Jesus. Right, it's nuts. Wow. This is
the other thing.
He's not a good manager. He's an idiot. He's delusional. Right? I don't buy. Hold on. I'm ranting. Sorry. I don't buy this. He's played well against Villa, and he played these two defensive things. Lee's right. He didn't really change much in that game. It's just that what he did do in that game, it worked against Villa, because I think Emery, for some reason, changed whatever he did in the second half. And I think Emery didn't adapt well, right? And Emery's got form for that. He'd done that last season against Ange, and we battered them, right? Man City are off it. Let's face it, that for some reason, this last 2-3 games, they're a bit off it, right? And, they didn't really play their full strength team. They've got loads of injuries and stuff. We've got form against them. So nothing's changed for me. We're the same poor team that we've been all season. And I think we're giving him too much grace. He's had a lot of luck in these last few games for me, right? And now we've just defaulted right back to where we were before.
I agree with that. And what I would add to that is I don't always believe it's the spacing behind. It is the problem, but I think there's more to it than that. I don't think Galatasaray's main focus was let me get him behind. You know what? If I was the Galatasaray manager, you know what I'd have said? Other than Porro, this whole back six are fucking useless. They can't control the ball. They can't turn on the six. But it's true. Look how far if we was a good footballing team, if this was, say, for example, we compare the two, a Pep, the way they roll the ball out and play those 5-6 passes, they would have been in on goal on Galatasaray's goal, outnumbered them, because Galatasaray had more. They had, say, if we had 5 defenders, they had 6 attackers. They just suffocated us. We have no idea to say, you know what we'll do is we'll chip a ball this time over the back line into a midfielder, and then we beat their press and off we go. It's not all about the spacing behind. I just think it's tactically the transition from goalkeeper to midfielder to striker is so poor that we don't know what to do. If we get a team to suffocate us, like what Galatasaray did, because if I'm honest, I don't think Galatasaray did anything amazing yesterday. They just literally suffocated us, and we could beat that. And for me, with Villa, I think Villa played into our hands, because all they wanted to do is pass between the back 2-3 and the keeper. We are one of the best pressing teams in the league. So the fact that they wanted to keep it within their centre-backs, that suits our style of play.
But do you know what I don't get, guys? Is, look, and I agree with you, James, there's a lot. I mean, listen, the spacing behind is obviously where we get, where they targeted with Osman in the first half. He scored 2. He had another one disallowed. He had another 2 shots. One was straight at the keeper and one blazed over the bar. That's just the first half. Mm-hmm. For me, listen, I want to give Ange credit for the Villa and Man City games, because listen, whatever we say about Villa didn't do this, City didn't do this. Listen, 2 tough games. 2 tough games. Credit where it's due. We came away with 1 cup win and 3 points. Right?
Yeah,
I'm going to give him credit for that. But this is where I'm in such a struggle, guys. I don't mind admitting to you, I'm in such a struggle with my Ange Postecoglou feelings, because you see him against those teams and you go, that was good. And sandwiched in between that, you see the diabolical performance at Crystal Palace, followed by an even more diabolical performance at Galatasaray. And it's sort of like every time when I think, sometimes, like when these streams stop, sometimes I sit home and I think, am I wrong about Ange? And then the next game runs around and I go, no, I am. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, I am not. Look at this. This is dreadful.
I agree.
we can talk all day, lads, about wasn't our first team. Sure. But when you know you've got 4 tournaments coming up in a season, you're not going to play your first team in every single game. When you know you've got European football every Thursday night, you go and buy some senior pros that can step in, right? He's told us in his own words, we can blame Levy all we want, and we do. In his own words, he's told us, I don't want leaders, right? In his own words, he said he didn't want more defenders. So this is what he wanted to go into these tournaments with. Then when it doesn't work, we can't turn around and go, oh, but he hasn't got any back, like it's a second choice back 4. First of all, he didn't want to take Spence. His choice. Second of all, he didn't want to buy another centre-half when he knew we only had 3 proper centre-halves at the football club. He didn't want to buy another backup left-back to Destiny Udogie. These are all the decisions that he has made and said himself. So when we get to these games, I don't feel sorry for him because he's decided this. Let me rant. He's decided, sorry, I'm on a roll. He's decided that he's going to play Maddison and Bergvall when he should have played one of them. He decided to play a young Will Lancashire up top. He decided to play Archie Gray at left back. He wanted to play the high line against Victor Osimhen. He decided not to protect the back 4. These are his decisions. So if we're going to praise him when he does well, which we do, we should more, then I'm going to critique the hell out of him when he doesn't do well. We are Jekyll and Hyde, and I've said it all season.
Big time.
Sorry.
I'm going to quick question. Go on then.
I'm going to nick a Danism, and then you can go, Dan. Right? I judge if we're going to praise him and judge him on his word, right? Then where's my title charge that he promised me? Where's my I want to win every single game? Because that team against Galatasaray, right, is not him wanting to win every single game. He criticised the fans, right, for wanting to lose against Man City because Arsenal are going to win the league, right? Fine, let's win every game. Why didn't you fill out your full-strength team against Galatasaray? What, all of a sudden now, the other teams can play their full-strength squads in the European competitions and then go and play on the weekend and we can't? You know, it's just, he's so inconsistent in his messaging. And he's inconsistent in the teams he plays, and I wouldn't say he's inconsistent in his tactics, but certainly he doesn't adapt the tactics to suit the teams he plays. He just plays the same tactics.
He's consistently inconsistent.
Yeah.
Maz, would you agree?
The worst point is, hang on a second. I want to ask a question here for everyone, yeah? Our team, for me, squad-wise, does not look, it looks worse, yeah? And this is... We talk about we've got rid of Deadwood and everything else. Do you know what? At this point for this season, the way we are at the moment, and with the small squad we've got, and having to put Archie Gray in wing back and left back and possibly defender, and I'd quite happily have Eric Dyer and Højbjerg back in the squad.
Fuck me, that's clutching.
Look,
but do we not think, guys, that number one, yes, you've got to go for every game. I don't agree with the 3 hits, but there's no terminal damage from last night. Players, we got away without injuries, and you can't keep, because of the high press, this intensity that we're playing, which also leads to a lot of hamstring injuries, etc. We were talking last night about players being burnt out by February, March. So although for me, you make 7 changes, you're not winning away games with your first team. It wasn't a surprise last night, A, with the tactics, and B, we're playing against a decent team on their home ground in front of a full stadium. It wasn't a bad, you can't keep playing Udogie. He's played more minutes than any other player this season. What do you want him to? Is he
going to play Sunday? Is he going to play Sunday?
Will he play Sunday?
Will Udogie play on left back on Sunday?
Probably because he doesn't. Probably because he just genuinely doesn't have anyone else.
Sure. So why didn't he play? So why not play? Who's a tougher opposition, Galatasaray or Ipswich?
Well, Galatasaray, you can lose. It doesn't make a difference. Ipswich, you lose. Yeah. I mean, it's the whole thing's going to go.
We're winning the league, so
no, we're not winning the league. No, Lee, we're not winning the league. But surely, if we're being realistic, your top three is still going to be City. Personally, I think Liverpool win it this year. City second, Arsenal third. Fourth place can be any one of 6 or 7 clubs.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's not good odds, is it? 6 or 7 people for one spot.
No. But I do think we've got a good chance as any of 5 or 6 other clubs in the Europa.
Oh, I don't.
Can I?
Just one. Sorry, James. I know you've got to go. One last question. How many of the remaining Europa games are at home and away?
Europa games, what, from now?
From now, yeah. 2
each.
Okay, so if you look at the form that we're on and the way that we're playing, you could possibly say it doesn't matter what the team is, those away games could be tricky. We haven't been convincing in any of our away games. And in Europa against crap teams, and these are going to be mediocre sort of, or better than what we've been playing before. They're not a full-blown conclusion that we're going to win those games.
But with those,
so you have to take these type of Galatasaray seriously, otherwise you're going to trip up other places.
But if we're not taking it seriously, and obviously I'm going to shoot, but on this sort of note, if we're not taking it seriously, why did Son start? Why is Solanke being brought on? Why is Kulu being brought on? Why is Dragusin starting when he's probably going to start the weekend? For me, he would have got more. What I would have done is I would have had Bentancur, Bissouma, Gray in midfield. So you've got 2 experiences, 1 young lad. If you go for a striker or up front, that's fine. Have Son one side, Johnson the other side, no problem with that. I think that's the right thing to do. But if we're doing this because we're tired and the game's not that important, like it's a free hit, then say, right, fuck it, you're all dropped. We'll take a youth squad out there. You guys have a couple of days off, get ready for the Premier League again. Not, right, we're going to drag you all the way there anyway. Then you're all going to come on at half-time because we're losing, and then they're all playing anyway. So it defeats the object.
Can I make the obvious point, James? After Ipswich on Sunday, first of all, I think these players should be able to play Thursday, Sunday, right? After Sunday, there's a 2-week international break.
But some of them are playing, Sav. Quite a few of them, they're not having a break, a lot of them. They're going off on international duty. They're travelling around the world.
Sure.
That's not Tottenham's problem, though, is it? That's not Tottenham's problem.
No, but they're not having a holiday. They're still.
But it is Tottenham's problem. When it affects the players, it is our problem.
That's right.
Hang on. I'm going to bring this back to the basics. When fans like me, like Dan, like Maz, like Lee, like Stel, when we sat there in the summer saying, we need to buy some experience because we've got European football this season. And we were told, stop being so negative. You're not real fans. It was for occasions like this. Now it's happening. The very thing we said, but it's a free hit. I don't get this, right? This is the first game, Ian, that he's had a real test in Europe. This is the first real test we've had, right? And the excuse for him is, but he put out a B team. Now, by the way, Basuma's not a B team player. James Maddison's not a B team player. Okay. Radu Dragusin is not a B team player. These are fully fledged international footballers. Pedro Porro is our top right back. Right. Sonny's our captain. Johnson's our first choice right winger. Bentancur came on. Sarr came on. Kulu came on. Solanke came on.
But if you play the wrong system, if you play a team with no balance, you play the wrong, you make the wrong selection, it nullifies all the experience that those players have got.
Exactly. Ian, I've said this for ages.
You leave them wide open. I mean,
everything was wrong.
But don't that also
go and put a team on there where everyone is playing in their right position and everyone is playing to what they are best at, and you get the formation right, you can make an average team look good.
But what signal? What signal does that send players like Udogie and Porro? No matter what you do, you guys are first team because the rest is shit. So do what you want to do. Play how you want to play. Give 3 goals away. It don't matter. Because no matter what you do, Archie Gray's a centre mid, but we'll play him left back. Like it doesn't make sense. No matter what they do, they're in that first team. So
no, you're right, James. You're 100% right. And then the other thing he did that was criminal. Okay, he didn't have much option, but for 4 games on the trot,
I'm going to shoot. I don't want to cut you off. I'm going to shoot, boys.
Bye, James.
Thank you so much for having me on, boys. Good chat.
Talk to you tomorrow about Sunday, yeah?
Yeah, I'll give you a message. Yeah, cheers, mate.
Okay.
Thank you. You two have your private chat offline, please, not on my show. Thank
you. My concern with it is that I think he introduced the kids at precisely the wrong game, and he introduced too many of them, and I think he's damaging them. And he's also, I think, playing them out of position. What he should have done is played as strong as he can back line with Vicario there, right, to give some solidity to, well, whatever solidity we can to the team, right, and then maybe just played Gray in the central midfield area where he should be playing with the Bentancur and Maddison or Basuma, whatever combination he was going to choose at that time, right? And play Son, I don't know, Johnson, Solanke, or whatever he's going to do. So you introduce one kid in there, and then maybe bring on Lancashire and Bergvall if the game's sewn up or under control. But what he's done is he's picked, I think, a weakened first team, right? Mm-hmm. And we've been battered, and Bergvall, Gray, and Lancashire go off of that game feeling like shit, thinking,
I totally agree.
Oh, shit. And I don't think that's right.
The other mistake he made, for 4 straight games now, it sounds like we're just picking on someone again, but for 4 straight games, every time Archie Gray has played, that other team, before we even started, said, he's there, double up on him, because we don't back him up.
Yeah.
The only one who can actually back him up is Kulu, because Johnson can't do it, Son can't do it, Werner can't do it. The only one who can come back and back him up on the right back is Kulu. And he had 3 players around him at one point yesterday. And this is why he's looking even worse, because he's not getting no protection there. And on the other side of it as well, for me, I mean, me and Ian and who else did we have on? Dietrich was talking about it. I didn't think it was a smart idea to drop these in at the deep end, basically, against an away team like Galatasaray. Now, 1 or 2, okay, but he put, 3 or 4 on there. And I didn't think that was the good idea. Whereas, Ian, you thought that he should play the youth in that team, wasn't it? And you had your reason.
If for me personally, if you're going to bring in Bergvall, then you play him with Bentancur and Basuma, or any 2 out of those 3.
Agreed. You
bring Gray in. Listen, he didn't have a choice. He didn't have another left back. Reguilon's not in the squad. Spence isn't in the squad. Udogie did need a rest. There is no point killing the geezer. If you're going to put him out for 6 weeks, we're in even more shit. So, okay, Udogie misses 1 game. It's neither here nor there.
But it is here nor there because they murdered him. It is here nor there. That's the problem.
I don't know. When he's on the ball, he looks good. But he's not left back, and he's not left-footed.
And the other team sees it and picks on him 4 games on the trot. On the trot, every single one of them. And Ange should see that. I'm not blaming Archie Gray for it.
Dan, the first 3 games we've won. This one isn't going to do terminal damage to our chances.
That's not the point I made. That's not.
But we haven't got a big enough squad, Dan. We don't have, and we had 7 injuries yesterday.
But then shouldn't he?
We had 7 missing as well.
But shouldn't he be telling someone to come back and help our biggest problem in the game at the time?
But do the coaches and the manager not talk to the players before the game and set them up?
This is what I'm asking. Well, he obviously don't, because they ain't coming back and doing it.
It's ridiculous.
Conte Jose would have adapted straight away. It would have taken
just wanna
5
follow on
10
this.
minutes.
This is the key thing for me. It's not like we were going to Galatasaray knowing that we've got Arsenal in the North London derby on Sunday. Now, no offence, and there is no excuse for losing to Ipswich at all. There is at home, there is no excuse. I don't care whether we played all the kids. There is no excuse. You have to beat Ipswich. But Kuva's got a point. What about when it's kickoff time and both games are tough? So what would he have done this week if we've got Liverpool at home? I understand it. We've got Ipswich at home. That's the game where I think you turn around and go, okay, Adogi, you go left back against Galatasaray, right? Gray, you go left back against Ipswich. You're used to playing against Ipswich. That's the level you're used to coming from, right? And we're going to have most of the ball because we're at home against a relegation threatened team. Why have we done the other way round? Like, what?
Angie's under pressure, Sav. Angie's obviously under pressure to get top 4.
But what's that? No, that's not what I asked. What's that got to do with beating Ipswich? Are you telling me? Are we really saying?
That's the reason.
Hang on,
He
Ian. So we're saying,
prioritised Ipswich.
okay, so we're saying that if Adogi had played left back instead of Gray, if Bentancur or Sarr had played in with Basuma,
yeah,
right, and if Solanke had played up front, let's just say we made those 3 or 4 changes last night,
different
which
game.
would have seen nearly a full strength team. You're telling me that then means we lose to Ipswich?
That is the thing here. If we
what are we doing here?
This
I think we've got a result last
already
night
made
as well.
excuses. I don't know with the way we played and they played. I don't think we'd have got a result with our first team.
Oh, Dan, I was just about to say the same thing. I don't.
Dan.
Oh God.
I agree. I think
How many
this
first
game-
teams play? How many away games do we have to
away
play
games.
with this first team and lose before you get to the point where you realise it's not the first team, it's the tactics and the high press. They would have absolutely. I don't think it would have been as devastating. I still think we lose to
But they would have still
Galatasaray even to
beat
put
us.
our first team out
The other thing is, with the
because even those
Galatasaray
guys make
game,
mistakes.
we even had a laugh about it last night because we all know it wasn't the end of the world.
of course.
But there's still a point.
I was
there's still a
devastated.
point because there's still a point to it. But the Ipswich game to Ange is 10 times more important. Why? Because if he goes and loses that Ipswich game, the shit's going to hit the fan again. Up and down, up and down. 2 steps forward, 4 steps back, and he will prove it again, like Palace, like everything else. Because a lot, like someone said on the side here, what have you pessimistic thought about the result against Villa was going to be? I said we was going to cook them, basically. Word. So I just replied to him, and what have you optimistics turned around and said we was going to destroy Palace? And then with that, if he loses that game against Ipswich, that's another problem in the league. Because like we have said, we all know Daniel Levy. 25 years of history. He hasn't changed his religion. He hasn't changed his thoughts.
Yeah.
If Ange is not close to that Champions League by January, and he is a significant distance off of it, I think Levy will wait until the end of January and get rid of him so he doesn't have to spend extra money. Or if he doesn't come close to it, he'll be gone at the end of the season.
But
He
but
has
Dan,
to get that. The pressure is on him for the league.
But Dan, we will batter Ipswich. I've got no doubt about that, right? When we batter Ipswich, what our fans are going to do now is go, there you go. That justifies what we did in Galatasaray. I'm sorry.
And that's
right?
wrong.
What do Arsenal, Liverpool, City, Chelsea, United, what have they been doing for decades? What team did Man U put out last night in the Europa League? Anyone see the team Man U put out?
No.
Bruno
I
Fernandes
would
was playing.
think, bearing in mind, I would think it was the first 11, bearing in mind they've drawn the first 3 games.
Sure, but they've got a game this weekend against relegation threatened team. Why didn't they change their team?
Because they're in trouble of falling behind in the Europa League.
But it's always, Ian. The problem is you're
Not
an
agree with
excuse
that, though,
machine.
Sam.
No, you don't. You don't. There's no need to make 7 changes in your toughest European game because what this does, this lets Ange off from us seeing, right, how do you compare against I'm not even going to call Galatasaray a top European team, but how do you
A very
compare
good team.
against one of the better teams in the Europa League. And now we don't have the answer because he made so many changes that it's a ready-made excuse, and fans turn around and go, "No, it's absolutely fine." And it's like, well, okay, but we're playing Ipswich. Ipswich have not won a game all season.
Palace.
Dan, I know, but Palace was away. The point is, if we can't beat Ipswich at home by putting in a Gray and a Bergvall, for example, or bringing in Gray into midfield and Ben Davis at left back, for example, then we should pack up and go home. It can't be that we had to make 7 changes away to Galatasaray and we go, it's a free hit because we won our first 3 games. So what happens if we lose our next European game? Does that free hit?
Look at him at Celtic. He'd done it all there, but as soon as he was in Europe, he got absolutely destroyed game for game. That's an understatement. He got absolutely bossed. With this game, we should have gone out for it to win it, because if we'd have got this and then we get, say, 2 draws, we're through, basically. But again, it just showed away, he just doesn't seem to have it. And he's so, I think you put it perfect with what you say. He's so Jekyll and Hyde, because there's certain games where I've seen him and I thought, you know what, mate, you got that spot on. Well done. Like he did with the subs yesterday. I think he got the subs spot on, the right players, but didn't change his tactics. So again, like I said, it makes it irrelevant.
But Dan,
I think he made those changes to stem the flow, to be quite honest with you. I don't think it was anything more than that.
Either way, he made the right subs. He got off the right players off the pitch.
But do you agree?
Who were playing absolute crap.
He mirrors the players. His better selections and in-game management have come at the lane. They haven't come away from home. He's poor away from home.
We're shocking away from home. That's what I was saying.
Why is he shocking away from home, Ian? You defended
the same as you do at home.
Day. Why is our away form so bad?
Because we play away like we do at home.
Exactly.
He doesn't change.
Exactly. So whatever 11 he puts out last night, make them... Listen, again, I'm going to reiterate it. It's not... Look, we lost to Galatasaray. It was the performance. It was the fact that he didn't go out there and make us hard to beat. If anything,
the way we lost.
He basically said, pepper our goal. And they did. And then fans at the end go, oh, but we had 3 young players and they'll learn. Learn what? What have they learned from last night?
I think the other bad thing for me, the most disappointing thing last night was the amount of times we gave away possession. Because we just invited them on for the first hour. Wasn't it? We just go on.
We lost it more than 20 times.
We'll give it back. You have another.
In our own half. Over 20 times we lost it in our own half. Crazy. Over 20.
And that's down to the players. That's on the players.
It is, but it's the style of play as well that he's asking players to do things they can't do. When you go to away games, teams, I'm not saying when I say sit in, I don't mean you have to park a bus or any silly saying, but you just go, right, first 20 minutes, keep it tight. Don't do anything silly. Don't go expansive.
Come back a little bit.
Son, go and sit in front of Gray. He's young. Protect him. Johnson, go and sit in front of Porro for the first 20 minutes. Make Galatasaray fight for it. They didn't have to fight for it. They battered us from pillar to post. And we're sitting there going, it was a bye. It doesn't matter because we won our first 3 games. That's our mentality at this club.
Every European game, the finishing has been on the other side. I mean, if you want to be really technical, Galatasaray's finishing was absolutely shit yesterday.
Wasn't it, dreadful?
Okay. It should have had about 20 goals.
That's what I'm saying. And every European game we've played, name me a game we've actually played good.
I don't think we have.
No. And in each of those games, if they would have had just one person who could convert properly, we'd have lost every single one of them.
Well, I'm not sure about Karabag, but I get
Karabag missed 2 open goals.
We scored 3. We scored 3. We had 10 men. I think that was a decent result against a shit team, but it was decent because we had 10 men.
I get what you're saying, but if they could finish, they would have. It would have been a different game.
It would have been different, yeah.
They had
Very
14 shots on 14 shots and 5 on target. They had better stats than we did.
Who, Karabag?
They just couldn't put it in the back of the net.
Again, though, because when you go down to 10 men, Ange has not learned that you go a little bit more defensive. He goes on the attack, and it's like
we never change, mate. It's who we are.
That's who we are. I just think, first of all, I'm seeing a lot of the same people, not on the panel, seeing a lot of the same people in my chats week in, week out, who are the ones praising the window, loving a youth project. We're moaning, are the same ones now using the transfer window as the reason as to why we haven't got a good enough squad. It's so weird how things come around, isn't it? Same as last year when we said all last summer, need a centre-back, stop moaning. Then when we lose Van der Ven and Romero, oh my God, we don't have his centre-backs. Of course we don't. No one bought one. Look, guys.
We should have kept Eric Dyer, basically.
Can you imagine, Savva, what happens in the international break if Romero is going to play for Argentina. I bet he'll be fit for that. And Dragusin goes and plays and they both get injured. We're going to end up with Archie Gray and Ben Davies in the back line.
There's the same.
No, Van der Ven's back, I think.
We'll see how that one goes.
It's called Fubard. That is the situation we will have if people know what I mean.
Listen, if Van der Ven's hamstring's on the dodgy again, I wouldn't rush him. I really wouldn't.
No,
we will. I
know we will, but we shouldn't. You know, if Romero and Dragusin can do a job, if they're both fit, then let them do the job. Yeah. Because it'll only make it worse.
So that for me is. By the way, we are going to end the show in the next 2 to 3 minutes. But just quickly before we do, surely then in January you go on. It's like deja vu to last year. Surely in January you go out and buy one more midfielder, one more centre back, and a left back. Or two, or if not a midfielder, you go and buy a left back and a centre back.
Definitely.
Listen, if he's not going to use Spence, and I'm sorry, Spence is ahead of Archie Gray for me in either of those positions.
For sure, for sure.
He's got left back and listen, Udogi's still young, right? But he seems to be getting rested all the time. He's got to be a left back and a centre back.
When he played in Italy, he played consistently game after game. Now, I get that Italy is a slower league. But he was playing a total different game as well, where he had to do a lot more running, where he was overlapping all the time at pace.
Yeah.
He played consistently all season.
Yeah. Look, guys, I'm gonna end the show there. Before I do, big up to Waka Wacky, who's become a YouTube member. Big up to you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And Faz Radfar did put in the chat and say, does the panel think the quad is not on? Big up. I don't talk about things like that. Big up to you though. Thank you, Faz. I appreciate you supporting the channel. Look, I think one thing we can all agree on, guys, is that, well, this Jekyll and Hyde stuff needs to stop. It is people losing their minds when we win a game and we're the best. Then when we lose, it's all the excuses in the world. We've just got to get some consistency into this football club because I find it mentally draining. I find it the emotions every week of the fan base up and down, depending on the result, is just.
Can you imagine
draining.
the players, Savva? Players must be thinking, "What on earth is going on?"
I agree. I see, but again, I think a real leader. I know we need to go, Maz, but I think a real leader goes into the manager and says, "Gaffer, away from home, we need to be a bit more solid." A proper leadership group go into the manager and say, "Gaffer, come on, can we drop it? All of this, it's who we are. We play." That's all well and good, but the same people complaining about the lack of squad depth and saying we're not good away from home are the same people saying that they think we've got a chance of winning the Europa League. I don't know on what evidence anyone is seeing that we can win this Europa League. I don't see on what evidence in any way, shape or form, because when we play away games, I think the better managers are going to pick us off. Their manager yesterday picked us off. Tactics spot on. He saw how to beat Spurs a mile off.
Yeah,
I agree.
Over the top pick on Archie Gray, and that's what he did.
Even pick on Pedro Porro. He can't. By the
Porro,
way,
it was more down Porro's side, Dan. If you think about the attacks, they were literally going down our right, going down their left.
Did you see the domination on their left with 2 or 3 players down there the whole time?
Yeah, the whole time. They
Porro had a worse game.
Well.
Porro had a worse game.
Porro can't defend. Just before we go, big up Philip Randall. It's always nice. That's the equivalent of a 97th minute winner, that is. Saying thank you, Savva, and the whole panel for another great show. Listen, thank you very much. I'm about to go and experience the wrath of my wife. That's not an innuendo, by the way. I truly mean the wrath of my wife. Big up to everyone. Lee, Maz, Ian, Dan, thanks for coming on. Thank you to James Flower and his sunny take. That's good. I might clip that. I might have to clip that and put that out as its own video. Sunny shit doesn't get in the top 8. I reckon I'd get a good 20,000 views. Everyone, thanks very much. I'm not doing anything tomorrow. I am having a full day off of YouTube, and I'll be back Sunday for the Spurs review. And before that will be Tottenham versus Ipswich at home. I'm going to go with 4-0. I think we're going to hammer them. So,
well, I'd just like to apologise now because I'm actually going to the game, which I don't get to do often. And I haven't yet been to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and we've actually won. So I could be the worst jinx in the world. So if we do lose, it's all on me. I'm sorry. I won't ever go again. This was the last time.
Right. 3-1 for me. Liam Delap is a threat. Will be a threat.
Especially if he's up against Archie Gray.
Bloody good player. He'll be up against Ben Davies, probably.
I'm just
kidding. He scored 5 in 10 games, Delap.
Guys, I am going to go. Take care. As always, come on, you Spurs. And
see you later.
I was going to say Levy out, but all right, fair enough. We'll go. See you later.
Brian Daigle.
Cheers, Dan. Levy out.
Sorry,
see you later. See you guys.